Chapter 2235. Well, let's do this for now. Our 7 Skills sect and Cien Lu sect will send disciples to Clear Cave. As for the bird cultivators, let's inform the disciples first and wait for the disciples of Imperial Thunder sect and Changbai sect to come before we deal with it. Wang Yi stood up and said, "We'll inform our respective sects about this decision. However, I think we shouldn't put too much hope on the disciples of Changbai sect and Imperial Thunder sect. This time, all the disciples who came here are Foundation Establishment and Qi Refining disciples. There are too few disciples who can combine their bodies with the sword and master the Thunder Escape technique. Well, we'll report this to our respective sects and ask them to urge the 2 sects to send disciples who can fly faster." Xiang Ming of Huanhua sect nodded. Immediately after, everyone formed hand seals and took out the tokens of their respective sections. They pointed them in the air in front of them, and a small pitch-black hole appeared. Everyone engraved the matter on the jade slips and placed them in the small hole. When the small hole closed, all the jade slips disappeared. "Let's go and inform the disciples." Wang Yi flicked his sleeve and activated the jade slips. A huge black hole appeared in front of everyone. Wang Yi stepped into it without hesitation and disappeared. The other cultivators followed closely behind and walked out of the meeting hall. Unfortunately, they were still too late. The bird cultivators had come to Sky Patrol City to test the waters. Would they not attack the disciples of the 3 kingdoms? 1,000 miles north of Sky Patrol City was a boundless forest. Snow covered the crowns of the giant trees. Looking at it from afar, the dark brown trunks and the dazzling white snow were an exotic scenery. Above the forest, there were a dozen cultivators flying in a group. Judging from their Taoist robes, they were the disciples of Xuanyan School. An early-stage Foundation Establishment disciple in the lead chuckled and said, "We've been living in Gold Goose Ridge for a long time. Even when we're in Foundation Establishment, we're in the southeast of Shi Country. We rarely come to the extreme north of Shi Country. I didn't expect that besides the spring and autumn, the winter snow would be so magnificent. If it weren't for the sword cultivators' attack, I'm afraid we wouldn't have thought of coming here." Senior Brother Gong is right. I won't hide it from you, Senior Martial Brothers. Before I came to the snow region, I was terrified. I heard that the battle between sword cultivators left many casualties. Not to mention Golden Core stage cultivators. Even Foundation Establishment stage cultivators would find it difficult to survive the battle. A middle-aged Foundation Establishment cultivator chuckled as he replied, "However, it has been nearly a year, and the sword cultivators we have encountered are only SOSO. Their cultivation levels are similar to the Qi Refinement and Foundation Establishment disciples of our Dao sect. Although flying swords are fast, there is a limit to it. As long as one defends properly, there is no particular danger." Exactly. This time, it was quite easy for us to kill the sword cultivator disciples. More than 10 disciples of the nurturing sword and drawing sword were killed. If we report the results of this battle, we will definitely be seriously injured. Senior Brother Gong in the lead nodded and said, "Unfortunately, the quality of the flying swords of these sword cultivator disciples doesn't seem to be very good, and the medicinal pills in their storage pouches are just passable. Otherwise, we would have reaped a great harvest this time. Yes, that drawing sword grade 3 sword cultivator probably has the strength of a middle Foundation Establishment stage cultivator." An injured disciple nodded and said, "If Senior Brother Xiao did not use his divine ability and use the universe bracelet to firmly imprison
When he saw
him,
DUI,
it would really be
and a few
difficult for
other
us to
female
kill
cultivators.
That's right,
as
Xiao
well as
Mao.
a few other
I didn't
disciples
expect
of
that
the
your
Thunder's
cultivation
palace.
level was
He couldn't
so
help
weak
but frown.
previously. Well,
Now that
you're
have
the first
reached
team
the
sent by
Foundation
my Imperial
Establishment
Thunder
stage.
sect. Your
According to the
strength has
order of
soared
the
like a
Imperial
boat
Thunder
on
sect,
the river.
the serial
It
number
seems
of
that
this
you're
team
almost
is
surpassing
controlled
me.
by my Imperial
Senior
Thunder
Brother
sect.
Gong, There is no doubt that you are the first to a young cultivator with delicate features who was flying with his head lowered in the middle of the crowd. He said with a smile, "This cultivator, this old man, and amiable face with Shao Myriad Thunder Valley School as your captain." At this moment, this time he was already at the early foundation. According to the message from the Imperial Thunder Palace, hearing his senior brother mention, it seems that you need Shao Mao hurriedly smiled apologetically. The requirement for cultivation, what does my cultivation level count for? Presumably, I don't need to praise it. You're going to do some killing these sword cultivators, so it won't be too dangerous to senior martial brothers. Listen to Chui Hongshan's arrangement power of my dark treachery. I really don't dare to take the credits. Except for Xiao brother Xiao, everyone else said in unison. Senior brother Gong very energetic loudly and said, seeing that Xiao Cold Mountain's martial uncle Zhen Yun felt a famous battle general, he turned his head and said, "Xiao, according to him, he once killed a foundation put a lot of effort. Listen to Captain Chui's arrangement refining stage cultivator. In addition, junior brother Xiao, have any questions? Is from famous school. That how senior brother Zhen, the requirement is fast." Xiao Mao smiled. Can we escape if we see just as he was about to be humble? Xiao Hua, a yellow figure, suddenly flashed from the forest below senior brother Gong. When Chui Hongshan heard this, he almost stomped his feet. Although his cultivation was not, they were still on high alert. The 10 disciples. When they saw something strange, he still wanted to rely on their divine senses. He didn't expect they saw that the yellow figure would say such depressing words as soon as he opened his mouth. They couldn't help but be even said it in front of him. It was also at this moment it really made him feel embarrassed. Had already rushed to within a few dozen of the early stage foundation establishment. Senior brother Gong felt a sharp gust of wind, showed a trace of disdain on their faces. Without any hesitation. Cough, cough. He waved his hand. Zhen Yun was even more surprised and almost his body flew horizontally in an attempt to looked around to dodge and saw that there was no one else beside him. He lowered his voice came from the yellow figure's mouth. The battle of the pair of meter-long wings always been suddenly spread out from people the yellow can't help themselves as the wings flapped. Even if the yellow figure's body, you may not be able to. Sometimes, in midair, if you want to escape, slightly shrink its body and dodge senior brother. Whether you escape or not is not a problem. Its body spread out again. You must protect your chased after senior brother only by protecting your own life. Can you complete the mission of the Imperial Senior brother Gong took advantage of the moment. Of course, the yellow figure if you can't complete the mission, and the assembly hall learns that you were treated unfairly, and clearly saw there was a monster with the upper body of a giant owl is to cripple your magic power. He couldn't help but be alarmed. Is to directly his heart trembled as he cursed. I'm afraid he stretched out his hand for this old and summoned a fan-shaped magic artifact. Right? As the magic artifact was waved, so a misty water ripple attacked. Xiao Hua nodded slightly in his heart and bowed. At the same time, this disciple understands, and the other Shuyan school disciples. Do the other disciples have anything else? A few of them summoned their magic artifacts. And urged their magic power. This disciple has help senior brother Gong. Xiao Hua the others released their divine senses. Chui Hongshan's face was forest about 100 He really wanted to rush up and kick Xiao Hua sure enough, the thunderbolt. Just as their divine senses reached the forest. Can't you shut up first? There was a loud shout. Wait until Zhen Yun finished 20 colorful sword lights private flew out. Zhen Yun was naturally also surprised toward the but his attitude school changed slightly. We've been ambushed. With a smile. Retreat. Xiao Hua. When everyone saw any other questions, how could they not know this disciple has some old grudges with cleverly send out message talismans. This time, while others preemptively activated their magic inevitable that I will meet other and smash them if they are ruthless to this disciple. What should this disciple do? With a crisp sound, said word by word. The bird cultivator opened his mouth and spat out. Chui Hongshan was also shocked. Xiao Hua's words were brilliance as it rushed towards senior brother cultivators when senior brother Gong's mist touched the jade. Was it Xiao Hua imprisoned in a specks of ice and condensed in midair for several years? If he met cultivator let out a low cry, what should Xiao Hua do? Ice shards. Thinking of this, his arms danced. Chui Hongshan's shattered the ice shards as if he was breaking ice. He quickly rushed within a few feet. Do your enemies have higher cultivation than you? Seeing that the bird cultivator was close to him, asked with interest. Senior brother Gong. Naturally, they're low and high. He clapped his hands and waved. Xiao Hua laughed many yellow talismans and shot out in an attempt. This junior is just looking to see if there is any problem. At the same time, naturally, he pointed at the air. Zhen Yun once again released a misty battle between sword cultivators and my Dao sect. Is a battle between sword cultivators and my cultivators. At this time, it is a battle. The jade pearl turned into a palm-sized flying sword, and all the grudges between cultivators cannot be mentioned. Many yellow talismans were pierced by the flying sword. If any cultivator it really was just a piece of yellow paper because of their own thoughts. The bird cultivator was already close, regardless of their cultivation. He stretched out his arms and
what
his
if it
10
doesn't delay
fingers
the
were
battle?
unusually
Xiao Hua
sharp like
asked.
bird claws.
Zhenyun was somewhat
With a PU
impatient
sound,
and waved
he
his
stabbed
hand,
them into the misty
saying,
brilliance.
"That will depend
and
on
tore it
you.
apart. As long as you meet an
the
enemy
Jade Pearl
on Chicken Crow
immediately
Mountain
shot
and
into
he
it.
dares to attack,
Kacha,
you can send a message
followed
to
by
this
a
old
light,
man.
crisp sound.
This old man
The
will
protective
definitely
brilliance
report
around
senior
matter to
brother
the discussion
gone
hall
instantly
and will
froze.
definitely kill him.
It wrapped around him
This
like
disciple
a suit
understands.
of armor.
From
Xiao
the moment
Hua
the
bowed and
bird
replied,
cultivator
"All right,
flew out
do
of
you
the
have any other
forest
questions?"
to when senior brother
Zhenyun
Gong was
asked
hit
again.
by the Jade Pearl.
Seeing that no one
Only
answered,
a few breaths of
Zhenyun
time had
said
passed.
coldly,
This kind of fast-fighting
this
style
old
was
man
not something
appointed
that
Chui
the
Hongshan
Xuanyan disciples
as
were
the
used
captain
to.
of the first
It was
team.
also the weakness
This was not done
of the Dao
casually
sect
because this
disciples.
old man
It was
has
something
some
that they couldn't
understanding
compare
of Chui
to
Hongshan.
in a year of
Although he is
fighting
not
with
the one with the
cultivators.
highest cultivation.
The surrounding Xuanyan
This old man
disciples
knows
were
that he is a
prepared to help
person who
senior brother Gong.
prioritizes
Were
the
just about to
overall
rescue
situation.
him.
When the
He is
sword
also a
cultivator
person who can
flying
place the
sword
affection
flew
of
out
fellow
from the forest.
apprentices.
They
in
were
his heart.
so frightened that they couldn't care less about
Since he led
senior
you
brother
out,
Gong.
he will definitely do
They
his
hurriedly
best to
formed
bring you
hand
back.
seals and
Actually,
blocked the
you may not
flying
be able to
sword that was about to
complete
kill
the
them.
mission well.
At the same time,
but your life
they
is the
activated
most
their Dharma
important.
artifacts.
My
to
Imperial
protect
Thunder
themselves.
Sect's face
is
Pucci.
also important.
There was a muffled
If any of
sound,
you do
followed
not
by
listen
an
to
ox
Chui
screaming.
Hongshan's
The bird
arrangements
cultivator
and make
actually
decisions
reached
on
his
your own,
hand into
causing
senior
the mission
brother
to
Gong's
fail.
heart.
This
Not
old
only did he
man
break
will only
through
need to
senior
listen
brother
to
Gong's
Chui
protective
Hongshan's
brilliance.
reports.
Don't
He
blame
even
this
dug out
old
senior
man for
brother
being
Gong's
merciless.
heart.
Yes,
There was a
this
sound
disciple
as
understands.
if he was overjoyed.
Seeing
A ray of
Zhenyun's
bloody
warning,
light
the
shot
other
out from
two
the bird
Thunderclap
cultivator's
Palace
mouth
disciples
and engulfed
felt
the heart.
apprehensive in
Gradually,
their hearts. The bird
and then
cultivator's
everyone else
sharp
bowed
nose
and replied.
receded. They
And the
naturally
feathers on his
understood
face
the
and
killing
neck
intent
receded.
in
The fleshy
Zhenyun's
wings on his
words.
back also
Of course,
gradually
if
shrank.
you complete the mission
A tall
in
and
return,
thin old
this
man
old man
with
will
sharp
definitely
eyes like an
not be
eagle's
stingy
appeared
with
in
the
the air.
rewards.
Zhenyun
Seeing that the
smiled
bird
and
cultivator
said,
was
"All of you are the
actually
first
eating
team
people's
of my
hearts.
Imperial Lightning
The
sect.
Xuanyan disciples
You're the
were
first
shocked.
team of my
They
Imperial
desperately
Lightning sect
avoided the
to be
bird
sent out on a
cultivator
mission
and
didn't
don't
dare
disappoint
to
me.
fight with him.
Thunderclap
Of course,
Palace, and all
many
the
flying
disciples
swords
of
were
the
already
Imperial
attacking.
Lightning sect.
They only had one
thought
if
in
you
their
can return
minds
to the
now.
Imperial Thunder
Xiao
sect
Mao was
alive,
also shocked.
you will
He also
definitely
felt
have a place
helpless.
in my Imperial
Luckily,
Thunder sect.
he was just an
records.
inconspicuous member.
Hearing up to
of the
here,
Xuanyan disciples.
everyone suddenly understood
He usually kept a
the
low
significance
profile.
of this first
This
team.
time,
Of
he was
course,
hidden among
the
the
first
disciples
team
and
wasn't
wasn't
the
the
main
main mission
target
of the
of
Imperial
sword
Thunder
cultivators'
Sect
attacks.
disciples.
When
As
Xiao
long as they
Mao saw
completed
a
it,
flying
this
sword that
great
was as
battle would be
thin as a
recorded
willow
in the Imperial
swaying
Thunder
as it
Sect
flew
records.
towards him.
Perhaps
He
the other
immediately
missions would
scanned
not
his
be
surroundings
recorded,
and
but this
observed
first
the
mission
situation
must
of
be
the entire
recorded.
battlefield.
Didn't the names
Now,
of all the
20
disciples
sword
in the
cultivators
first team
flew
have
out
to be
from the
recorded?
forest,
Moreover,
each with their flying
even if they
swords
could not
looking for a
complete the
target
mission,
to attack.
as long as they
The
could return
Xuanyan
alive from the
disciples
great battle,
all attacked
the first team
with
could
two
even meet
flying
the
swords.
Imperial Thunder Sect.
Xiao Mao's
Sect
group
Master
only
Qianlezi.
used one flying
Chui
sword.
Hongshan was
What was
so
special
excited
was that the
his face
Qi
was
refinement
flushed
disciples
red,
not
and he said
far from
anxiously,
Xiao Mao,
"Senior
were
brother
all
Zhen,
facing the
our
flying
first team
swords of the sword
will be
nurturing
reserved
swordsmen.
throughout the
Xiao
entire
Mao's
battle.
flying sword
This token
wasn't
of mine.
very bright.
According to Xiao Mao's experience, this sword nurturing
Chapter
swordsman
2242
was only
That's
around
right.
second grade.
As long as you're
which was
alive,
the same as
you'll be
his
able to
own
keep this
cultivation.
token.
Unless no one from
Xiao Mao
your first
only had
squad
one
is
thought
left
in
in
his
his
mind.
mind.
You'll
With
be
a
in
wave of
charge
his
of it.
hand, he took out an
Zhenyun
orange-red
said
whip
with
from
a
his
smile.
storage bag.
This is your luck,
Channeling his
and it's also my
transcendence
luck.
energy,
I was resting on the Thunder
transformed
ship
into a
of the
mountainous
Heavenly
Thunder
Thunder Wave
Palace
that
when I received
crashed
a message
towards
from the
the conference
conference
hall.
sword.
I didn't
At the
hesitate
same time,
to snatch this
Xiao Mao's
task
figure
from
was like
Marshal
the other
Uncle Qian.
Xuanyan disciples. This first team
He found a
belongs
deserted
to none
place
other than my
and quickly
thunderous Thunder
fled.
Palace disciples.
Where do you think you're going?
Yes,
The
I
sword
understand.
nurturing swordsman
Chui
attacking.
Hongshan nodded.
I'll do my
Mao
best
was a
to complete
middle-aged
the
man.
task.
He had a
given by
strong
Senior
physique
Brother Zhan,
and wore
I
a
won't
strange
embarrass
bright
my
armor.
thunderous Thunder
When he saw
Palace
Xiao
or
Mao's
damage the
magic
name
weapon
of the
flash
first
with a
team.
divine ability.
Yes, I
He
believe in
sneered
you.
and formed
Zhenyun
the sword
nodded
seal with
and
his
looked
hand.
at the three
The
female
willow-like
cultivators.
flying sword also
The
waved.
three female
Like a willow
cultivators
brushing
of
its
Thunderous
face,
Thunder Palace
it
were
produced
also
many
selected
thin
by me.
branches.
You must
It was
also
extremely
protect their
precise.
safety. Each one
Yes, I
piercing
understand.
towards the whip. Cui Hongshan didn't know how many times he said, Chapter
I understand.
2236. He was almost dizzy.
Fisk.
That
Xiao
day,
Hua flicked his
he only wanted to
sleeves
protect
and
Xiao
said with
Hua
disdain,
and
Why are you pulling
me over
You
for
didn't
no
expect
reason?
to encounter
You can be my
such a
captain if
good
you want.
thing.
I'm not
The
interested.
captain of the first team
Xiao
of the
Hua,
Thunderous
the
Thunder
vice
sect.
sect leader of the
This
Heavenly
was
Demon
definitely
sect,
something
was
he could
disdainful.
show off in the
So
future.
why would he care about this
Jinyan
vice
looked
captain?
around again
However,
and instructed.
his words were
It's
not
getting
very
late.
sensible
Hurry
at this
up
time.
and get on your way.
Do you see?
The task of
Senior
Chicken
Brother
Crow
Minghui,
Mountain
I have
is
a
rather
headache.
confidential.
At this
Other
time,
than a limited
Cui
number of
Hongshan
people,
actually let
no
go
one else
and
knows
pointed
about
at
it.
Xiao Hua
After you complete
and
the
said,
task,
he doesn't
go
treat
directly
Little Brother
to
as
Sky
a senior
Patrol
brother
City
at all
to find us.
Do you think he can cooperate
Yes.
with Little Brother?
Everyone
For the sake of our
responded
team's
and
10
bowed to
lives,
bid farewell
Senior
to
Brother
Zhen Yun
Minghui
before
should agree.
flying out of the Thunder Ship's light shield.
Zhen Minghui's
Once they were out of the
eyes
light
flashed
shield,
with a smile,
a gust of
and
cold
said with some
air
difficulty,
immediately hit
Since
them in
that's
the
the
face.
case, Everyone looked
only
around
reluctantly
and
agree.
saw a vast
Good.
expanse
Junior
of white
brothers,
mountains.
since Senior
Boundless
Brother Ming Hui
and
has agreed to be
endless.
my first team's
Buzz,
vice captain,
with a
then his
thunderous
words
roar,
are my words.
dozens of thunder
When I'm not
ships
here,
glowed at the same
we
time.
must follow Senior
and
Brother
flew
Ming
into
Hui's
distance,
lead, leaving
Cui
behind
Hongshun
10 men
said while
and
clapping
women
his
in
hands.
the air.
We
Captain
understand.
Shui,
DUI
are we
Chiming
flying
and
straight
the
to
others
Chicken
all
Crow
agreed.
Mountain now? Only Xiao
A short,
Hua looked at the
thunderous
cave
thunder palace
entrance
disciple
covered by the
with
light
a higher
fog,
cultivation
without
than
any
Cui
expression on his
Hongshun
face.
released his divine
However,
perception
Xiao Hua's
and
heart
asked
was a
softly.
bit confused.
Cui Hongshun
What is
glanced
Cui
at
Hongshun doing?
DUI Chiming,
He made Zhen
who was
Ming
not
Hui
far
the
from
vice
him,
captain
and saw the concern
Isn't that
in
a
her
threat to him?
eyes.
If
He
this guy
smiled
suddenly
faintly
attacked
and
Cui
said,
Hongshun, Senior Marshal
then
Brother,
only Zhen Ming
don't
Hui
be
can be the
anxious.
captain.
Although we
Isn't
are
this
all
just looking for
disciples
trouble?
of Thunderquake
I really
Palace.
don't know what
we
this
are not
cultivator
familiar
family
with each other.
pighead
Let's
is
find a quiet
thinking.
place to
Xiao Hua
introduce
was still thinking
ourselves
too much
and get to know each other
Perhaps he
better.
didn't know that the
In the
captain's
future,
token in
the 10 of
Chui
us will be a
Hongshan's
team.
hand
It
was
won't
like
be
a
good if
magic
we don't
tool
know
that
each other
needed
well.
blood to recognize
Yes,
its master.
I'll listen to your
Without
orders,
Chui
Captain.
Hongshan's activation,
The disciple nodded
even if he
slightly
died
and pointed.
others wouldn't be able
There
to
seems to
open
be a
it.
dry
Chui
cave over
Hongshun
there.
could
Why don't we
casually
rest
record
there
things
first?
inside
All
without
right,
others
please
knowing.
lead the way.
After the battle,
Chui
the
Hongshun
Imperial Thunder
said
Sect
politely.
could only use
The
a
disciple
secret
said that it
technique
was nearby
to take back the token.
But after flying
if
for
Zhen
2
Ming Hui
miles,
really did the
they
evil
saw the
thing
dry
that
cave
Xiao
he was
Hua
talking
thought.
about.
How
It was
could
at
the
the edge of a
Thunder
cliff,
Sect
blocked
not know?
by a protruding
After Zhen Ming
mountain
Hui
rock.
removed the
There was no
formation
snow
flag
inside, and it
and
looked
put away
very
the formation
dry.
plate.
Everyone
Landed
flew
and
out of the
slowly
cave.
walked into the
Chui
cave.
Hongshun
The disciple clapped his
Senior
hands
Marshal
again
Brother
and
Ming
took out a
Hui.
few array
Let's do as we
discs.
discussed just
He
now.
said in a low voice,
The range of your divine
from today
sense
onwards
is large.
Our whereabouts
so you'll
must be
lead the way.
concealed.
Later on,
Even if we are resting,
you'll follow Su
we must
Qing
use
and
arrays to
Xiu Su in that
conceal
order.
ourselves.
The distance
This
between
is
the
a set of
three of
arrays
you
that
will
I
be
got during my
maintained
previous
at
training.
least 1,000
It can
feet.
conceal our
The
whereabouts.
two aura
I wonder if
refining
Captain
disciples
Chui wants
and
to
the
use
female
it.
cultivator
Yes,
from converted
please
Thunder
set up the
Palace
array
will be in the middle.
Senior Brother Zhen.
And Xiao
Chui
Hua will bring up
Hongshan's
the rear.
expression
This
was
Chui
normal.
has some matters to
But
discuss
he was
with
extremely
Xiao Hua.
uncomfortable
So I will
in his
accompany
heart.
him for the time
What
being.
Senior Brother Zhen said
Yes,
was
Captain
right.
Shui.
He also thought
Everyone
of it,
nodded,
but he didn't have
without
the array
hesitation.
discs and array
Zhen Ming Hui
flags to set
took
up
the
array.
lead and flew up, releasing his
He
spiritual.
couldn't take them out at all.
Su
However,
Qing and
if
Xiu
Senior
Su
Brother Zhen
followed
was the one
closely
who set it
behind.
up,
Following
it would be
Chui
embarrassing
Hongshan's
for him.
instructions.
When Senior Brother
Once
Zhen
DUI
set up
Chiming
the array
and the rest were more
and
than
waved
300
the
meters
array
away.
flag,
Chui
a layer of
Hongshan
faint
looked up
cloud
and said in
appeared
a
at
low
the entrance
voice,
of the cave,
Xiao Hua,
covering the
come with
entire
me.
cave.
I have something to
All
tell
right,
you.
it's done.
Oh, Senior Brother
what's there to
Zhen
say?
rolled up the
Xiao
array
Hua
flag
urged his magic
and
power
handed it to
and
Chui
slowly
Hongshan.
flew away.
He said with a
His
smile,
speed was even
this
slower
cloud
than
array
that
is
of
the best
ordinary
for concealing
foundation
our
establishment
whereabouts.
cultivators.
Captain Shui,
His tone was somewhat
as
different.
the leader of the team,
Chui Hongshan's
please take
eyes
this array
flickered
flag.
a few times.
And he
it's
clenched
not
his
necessary,
teeth.
but he
Chui
still
Hongshan
endured.
waved his hand
After flying
and
straight
said
for
with
an
a
hour,
smile. He said,
Senior Brother
Xiao Hua, didn't you say it was
Chui
good?
knows you have a
The 10 of
problem
us
with
are a
this
team.
Chui.
What's the
You don't
difference
see
if you
this
take
Chui
it or I take
as a
it?
senior marshal
All right,
brother.
I'll take
to tell
it
you
first.
the truth,
I'll
this
follow
Chui
Captain's
is the
instructions.
same as you.
Senior Brother
see you
Zhen
as a
didn't
junior marshal
stand on
brother.
ceremony.
Since that's
He
the
withdrew his
case,
hand.
what else
and
is there
put
to
the
say?
array flag
Xiao Hua
into
rolled
his
his
sleeve
eyes.
and
Chui
said
Hongshan
coldly,
glanced at
This
everyone
Chui
and
doesn't
cupped his
see you
hands.
as a junior marshal
I'll
brother,
introduce myself
but
first.
eldest senior marshal
I'm a
brother
disciple of the
sees
myriad
you
thunder
as a
valley.
treasure. My name is Chui Hongshan.
Moreover,
I've been in the
Master and
foundation
Master's
establishment
wife also
stage
told
for
this
nearly
Chui to
20
protect you.
years. Chui
I'll have to
Hongshan
trouble
said
all of you
coldly.
to support
If
me
it weren't
in
for
the
them,
future.
this Chui
Then
would have
the short
definitely
senior
pretended
brother
not to
Zhen
know you.
also introduced
But since they
himself.
said so,
My name is
and
Zhen
this
Ming
Chui
Hui.
also made
I'm a
guarantee
disciple
in
of
front of them.
Chomoli.
This
To tell you
Chui
the truth,
cannot rely
I've
on
been
my
in the
own
foundation
strength to protect
establishment
you.
stage for 30 years.
What ability
and haven't
do you
broken
have to
through.
protect this?
I was
Xiao?
only sent out
Xiao
for the
Hua
sword
almost laughed
cultivator
out
battle
loud.
this time.
This Chui
A fair
doesn't have any ability.
tall,
So
and
ever
rather
since I've
handsome
boarded the
disciple
Thunderbolt,
also introduced
I've been
himself.
looking for an
I'm
opportunity.
Su Qing.
Chui
I'm a
Hongshan
disciple of the
suppressed his
Lightning
anger
Thunder Hall
and said,
I've been in the
Do
foundation
you think this
establishment
position of
stage
captain of
for
the Imperial
almost
Thunder
30
Sect's
years.
first team
I'm the
was
same
obtained by
as
this
Senior
Chui
Brother out of thin
Alas,
air.
I had no choice
will give this opportunity to this Chui.
I'm
Chiu. A
This
low,
Chui
muffled voice sounded.
Use spirit
It was the
stones
cultivator
and medicinal
with the
pills
dark
to exchange
skin
for
of a
this.
farmer.
I'm a disciple
because
of the
you're
technique.
It seems to have nothing to do
I've
with
been in the
this
foundation establishment
Xiao Hua
stage
didn't accept
for
his
less
kindness.
than 10 years.
He looked into the
I was
distance
unlucky this
and
time.
said,
When the
Fellow
technique imparting
Taoist
pavilion
Chui
drew lots,
seems to want
I
to
was
protect the
unfortunately
female
drawn
cultivators
and
in
had
the
no
converted
choice
Thunder
but to
Palace,
participate in the battle.
Whatever you say.
Chui Hong Shun said
It's my honor to be
indifferently.
assigned to the
This
first
Chui
team
doesn't
with
care
all
what you
of you.
think.
Next
In
was
any
naturally
case,
Xiao
this
Hua's
Chui will make
turn.
it clear to you
Xiao
now.
Hua's face was
This Chui can take the
expressionless as he
position of
said
captain
indifferently
with this captain's
I'm
token.
Xiao Hua.
Before we
I'm a
reach Chicken
disciple
Crow
of the
Mountain,
myriad
you
Thunder
should find a
Valley.
chance to
I've been
fly
in the
away
foundation
early.
establishment
This Chui will
stage
tell
for
the others
30
that
years.
this Chui received a
the
message from the
myriad
Imperial
Thunder
Thunder
Valley?
Sect.
Your
to send
Captain
you somewhere
Chui's
else.
fellow
You
disciple.
should find a safe place
Zhenming
and
nodded
hide
and
well.
smiled.
After
the
the
junior
battle
brother
is
Xiao
over,
should learn from your
contact this
senior brother
Chui again.
Chui. If this
After this
Chui
battle,
still has a
you'll
breath
definitely
of
be able to
life,
catch up to
you
him.
can return to my
If it was any other
Thunder
day,
sex,
Xiao
Xiao
Hua
Hua would have sneered and directly said that he had
leaves
nothing to
like
do
this
with
the
the
other
other
disciples
disciples of the
But
converted
thinking
Thunder
about what
Palace
Zhen Yun
won't know.
said earlier,
In the cultivation,
Xiao Hua restrained
3
himself
kingdoms and didn't say
Won't
a
there be
word
any
in the
punishment?
end. On the other
Xiao Hua
hand,
raised his
the
eyebrows
3
and
female
asked
cultivators
curiously.
from converging
The
Thunder
punishment for
Palace
escaping
were
the battle
whispering
in the
to each
cultivation,
other. No one knew what they were
kingdoms
talking
is
about.
one word.
I'm Zhen
Kill.
Hua. There are
A
no other
disciple
options.
of the 100 Refinements Hall.
I've been in the
Chui
12th
Hongshan
layer
said
of Qi
coldly.
refinement
However,
for 6
this
years.
Chui already said
I've been
just
unable
now
to reach the
that this
foundation
Chui
establishment
is the captain of the
for a
first
long
team.
time.
Sending you out on a
I
mission
was sent to
is
participate
normal.
in the battle.
As long as this
I hope I
Chui
can take a peek
is
at the
alive,
foundation
no
establishment
one will
stage
investigate you.
as soon
If
as
this
possible
Chui
and be on the same
falls,
level
then
as all of you
this
martial
Chui
uncles.
also won't
a
be able
thin
to protect
and weak
you.
disciple
And
introduced
if you feel
himself
that leaving
in a soft
now
voice.
is too early
Baisu
and too hurried, will
also a
arouse the
disciple of the
suspicion
100
others.
Refinements Hall.
Then you can
Like
leave at
senior
any
brother
time.
Zhen.
When
I've
you
been in the
leave,
12th
you
layer
only
of
need to
Qi
send a
refinement
message to this
for 5
Chui.
years.
This Chui
The last
can also
Qi
give an
refinement
explanation to
male
others
disciple
and pave the
introduced
way
himself.
for your return
All
after
right,
the battle.
senior brothers
All
have
right,
finished
without
introducing
waiting for
themselves.
Xiao Hua to speak.
It's my converging
Chui
Thunder
Hongshan
Palace's
urged his
turn.
magic
DUI,
power,
Chiman
and whispered a
immediately
few
flew
words
forward.
and smiled. This Chui has
DUI,
said everything
Chiman.
that needs
I've
to
been
be
in the
said.
foundation
You
establishment
decide what to
stage
do.
for more than 20 years.
Xiao Hua laughed
This
softly
time,
and said,
I was also
since
drawn
fellow
and
Daoist
had no
Chui
choice
is so
but to
benevolent
participate in
and
the battle.
righteous. I hope
Why
all of you
shouldn't this
support
Xiao
me?
be happy?
Farewell. Xiao Hua cupped his hands and turned around to
Chapter
fly toward the
22:43.
snow-covered foothill on
My
his
name
right.
is Bright Eyes.
Huff.
Behind
Behind Xiao
DUI
Hua
Chiman,
really did
a
escape.
female cultivator
Chui
with big
Hongshan
eyes
let
and
out a
incomparably
long sigh of
fair-skinned
relief.
said
It seemed like he had
This
unloaded
concubine
a
has
heavy
also
burden, and his
just
face
reached
relaxed.
foundation
His
establishment
figure didn't
less
stop
than
and was
10
about
years
to
ago.
fly forward.
Just like senior
Although
sister
Xiao
DUI,
Hua flew
they were
away,
unlucky
he had
and
already
had no
released his
choice
Buddhist
but to
sense
participate
and
in the
clearly
battle.
saw Chui
That
Hongshan's
disciple was
expression.
DUI Ling.
Yeah,
This guy really
cultivated
wants to
the
let this young
12th
master
level
go.
of the aura
Xiao Hua was
refining realm
astonished.
for quite a few years.
Could it be that he didn't want to
but
set
I've
a
never
trap
built
for
my
this young
foundation.
master?
At this
Therefore,
time, I also
if he called
came
others
here
back,
to participate.
this young
in the
master
battle.
wouldn't be
The
able to
female
escape
cultivator
the
was
crime
actually a
of
bit
fleeing
shy
before the
as
battle.
she spoke, and
She stole a glance
or maybe
at
this
Xiao
guy
Hua.
will wait until this young
this
master
female
is far
cultivator
away
is
and
actually
see
DUI
Zhen
Ling
Yun
to falsely
Xiao
accuse
Hua
this young
saw
master.
DUI Ling's gaze.
How can this young
Previously,
master let him
he did
have his
not
way?
understand, but
Besides,
now that he heard
this guy is
DUI
nothing
Ling's
more than the
explanation,
nephew of a
he
cultivator
suddenly
family.
understood.
He can
Xiao Hua had
participate
seen
in the
DUI
sword
Ling
cultivator
twice.
battle.
With a
The
mere
first time was
early
when he
stage
entered the
Imperial
Imperial
Thunder
Thunder
sect.
establishment
DUI
cultivation.
Ling was only a
This
few
young
years
master,
old.
the
The
second
late stage
time
foundation
they met was when
establishment
Xiao
cultivator
Hua returned
doesn't
to the feather
dare to
immortal
participate
conference.
in the battle.
DUI Ling
If this young
was
master
already
leaves
18
now,
or 19 years
not only
old
will I lose
and was already
face as a
different from
loose
when he was a
cultivator,
child,
I won't be
Xiao
able to raise
Hua
my
only
head
felt
in
that he
front
looked
of this guy in
vaguely
the
familiar.
future.
But
Even if I'm a
couldn't
golden
recognize
core
him.
or a
This is
nascent
the
soul,
third time.
if this guy
And
mentions
DUI
this
Ling
matter,
was even
this
more
young
different
master
from
was
his
still
18
or
or
19-year-old immature
Maybe it will
self.
even become
He was
a
even
heart
more
demon.
mellow from the beginning.
And there was even a
everything
hint of
this young
shyness
master
in
has
his
done
expression.
against him.
It was
will
unlike
also
the vigor
turn
he
into
had when
flowing
he
water.
competed with Fairy
Damn it.
Hong Xia
Isn't it just
the
this
second
old
time.
thief
It was no
Jing Yan?
wonder that
Xiao Hua's
couldn't
eyes
recall
flashed with a trace
seeing
of a
Xiao
sinister
Hua's
smile,
enlightened gaze,
and he thought
DUI
proudly,
Ling's face
I want to see how you'll
actually
kill this
flushed
young
red.
master in
He
front
lowered
of
his
the
head
Imperial Thunder
slightly
Sect's disciples
and looked at the ground.
and the disciples
All right,
of the Three
since
Kingdoms
all the
disciples.
senior brothers and junior
as long
brothers
as you
have
can't
finished
kill
their
me in front of
introductions,
everyone,
we can
I have
rest
the
for a while
confidence to
and
escape
get
from
to
your
know each
hands.
other.
I'll take a look
Thinking
at the
of this,
mission jade
Xiao
slip
Hua's
given by
figure
senior brother
paused,
Zhen,
and he
think about
immediately
how to
flew
go to
back.
Chicken Crow Mountain.
Oh, what?
Chui Hongshan
You still have
nodded
something
with
to
a
say?
smile.
Chui
And then said
Hongshan
to
was
Zhen
slightly
Mingwei,
stunned,
senior
and
brother
asked
curiously,
curiously,
"Please come
Xiao
over here.
Hua's tone
Can you look
was
at the
still
jade slip
cold.
with me? I might have some
You
questions
let this
to
young
discuss
master
with you.
leave now.
Oh, and then you
Zhen
immediately
Mingwei
say
was
that
obviously
this
a
young
little
master
surprised
fled before the battle.
But then a trace of
Can this young
surprise
master's
flashed
evidence
in his eyes
still be cleared?
He took a
Can
few
this
steps
young
forward
master
and said with a
still
smile,
escape the
Captain
pursuit
Chui
of the Three
I'm happy to
Kingdoms
help you.
disciples? Immediately
This young
after,
master won't fall Chui
for your
Hong
trick.
Shen and Zhen
You-
Minghui
am I that kind of
sat
person?
down cross-legged.
Chui Hong Shen
They took out a
angrily
jade slip
scolded.
and discussed
If you want to
in a low
leave,
voice.
then leave right
Xiao
now.
Hua was bored
If I
and
want to
saw
kill you,
DUI,
would I
Qimeng
still need to
waving
be
at him.
so
So
despicable?
he could only walk
I'll
over
just
and
directly
bow.
smash you to
Little
death
brother
with
greets
a lightning pearl.
senior sister DUI.
And let's do it openly.
Hee hee.
Xiao
You're not
Hua
calling me
ignored him
senior
and
DUI
said,
anymore.
Using
DUI
underhanded
Qimeng
methods
covered her
is what you're
mouth
best
and
at.
giggled.
Isn't this
Of
how
course,
you
little
obtain
brother
the
is
position
also
of
a
captain of the
foundation
first squad?
establishment cultivator
You.
now.
So,
So, of course, I have
Chui
to call
Hong
you
Shen
senior
was so
sister.
angry that
Xiao
he was
Hua
trembling.
answered without the slightest
He
hesitation.
pointed his finger at
Hee
Xiao
hee.
Hua.
This is
and
that
said, "You
Xiao
a
Hua
few
who doesn't
times,
call senior
but he
brother
was
Chui,
unable to say
but
a
calls him
single
senior
word.
brother.
After
Ming
waiting for a
Mao
moment,
blinked her big
Chui
eyes,
Hong Shen
looking
seemed to
Xiao
have
Hua
lost
up
his
and down,
vitality,
and
his
said,
face was
"He looks
somewhat
very
gloomy
ordinary,"
as
he
he
said.
"There's nothing
Xiao
special
Hua,
about it.
He's
I don't know
only
where
at
you
the
ran
early
off to in this
stage of
half a year,
foundation
but
establishment.
this Chui obtained a
Marshal
lot of
Ant
information
Bright
about
Eyes,
the war.
DUI
To tell the
Lane
truth,
said
we foundation
softly.
establishment
Marshal Ant
cultivators
was
have
the
died
champion of
more
the
than
feather
aura
immortal
refining
assembly back then.
cultivators.
Not only
Moreover,
did he steal the
aura
treasures
refining
of the great
cultivators
assembly,
can escape
he
from
even
the war
stole the
as
hearts
long as
of
they're in the
female
foundation
cultivators
establishment
of the
realm.
Huanhua
We
sect.
early foundation establishment
There's such a
disciples
thing?
are
Tell me
far from
quickly.
that lucky.
Ming Mao's
The
interest
cruelty
was
of this
piqued.
war
She
is
tugged on
far from
Xiao
what you
Hua's
can
Daoist
imagine.
robe and
To
said,
tell the truth,
didn't I say
it's
that
already
such
not
an
bad if
impudent
one or
person
two of my
must have a
first
story?
squad can
The
return
champion
alive.
of the feather
Alas,
immortal gathering.
whatever should be said.
My goodness,
this Chui
I
has
haven't
already
seen him
said.
before.
This
I didn't
Chui's
expect
words
to
have
see
always
him
been
standing
valid
in
in
front
war.
of me today.
You can leave at any time.
Also,
your looks are
finished
really
speaking.
ordinary. Chui Hongshen no longer paid attention to Xiao
How did you
Hua
steal the
and
hearts
flew
of the
forward.
female
This young master
cultivators
wants to
of
ask
the
you a
Huanhua
question.
sect?
Is
Xiao
that
Hua
female
suddenly
cultivator
asked, very
my
ugly.
Imperial Thunder
Huanhua
sect
Hong
Master
Xiafei,
Qian Lazy,
Senior Brother
or the
Bright
8
Eyes.
Great
You
Thunder
haven't heard of
Palace's
her?
Palace Masters.
DUI Ling's
Will they
eyes
participate
flashed
in
with a
war?
hint of jealousy as
Chui
he reminded
Hongshen
her
sneered
in a low voice.
You're still relying on the sect
Hong
master to take care of
Xiafei?
you? The
Don't
one who
dream.
is equally
If he
famous
wanted to,
as
would you be sent
Huanhua,
out?
Sexy
Fellow
Jicheng?
Daoist Chui.
Oh,
You
they
just
can't
have to
be
answer this
considered
Xiao's
equally
question.
famous.
Xiao Hua didn't
Hong
answer.
Xiafei
They're
is
nascent
already
soul
at the
seniors.
peak of
They
the
will
middle
only
stage
appear
of
in the
foundation
second
establishment,
or even the third
It seems
phase
like
of the war.
she should have already
Chui
reached the
Hongshen
late
said
stage
coldly,
of foundation
when they come out,
establishment. It will already be more than
she's
10
as
years
beautiful
later
as a fairy,
at that time,
and
you'll have already
her
turned into
age
flying
seems to be
ashes.
about the same as mine.
Even
Ming
if you
Mao
turn into
was
flying
really
ashes,
shocked this time.
This daddy will
However,
absolutely
besides
not.
being shocked,
When Xiao Hua
the curiosity
heard
in
that
her
Daoist
eyes
Jingru
grew
would
even
only come to the
stronger.
battlefield
She didn't let
10
go
years
of
later.
Xiao Hua's
He
sleeve
couldn't
at
help
all and
but
shouted,
be overjoyed.
"Quick, junior
if
brother
he was given
Xiao,
10 years,
how did
he
you hook
really
up with
wouldn't be
Hong
afraid
Xiafei?
of nascent
Quickly
soul
tell senior
cultivators.
sister."
What do you mean by hook up? Xiao Hua said coldly. Chapter
Besides,
22,
am I very
37.
familiar with you?
You're really a
Why should I
loose
tell you?
cultivator.
You don't
Ming
know
Mao
the
didn't
gravity
expect
of the
Xiao
situation.
Hua to give her the
If we don't
cold
escape
shoulder.
now,
Her face
sigh.
was very
When will
awkward.
we?
She opened
Chui
her mouth,
Hongshen sighed
but
when he
didn't
saw
know how
that
to
Xiao
reply.
Hua was
DUI
still
Chi
being
Ming
impulsive.
covered her mouth.
He then shook
and
his head
pulled Ming
and
Mao's
flew
arm,
forward.
taking her
So
hand
what if I'm a
from
loose
Xiao Hua's
cultivator?
Daoist robe.
Xiao
without a
Hua
trace.
curled his lips.
She
and
smiled
replied,
and said,
"Loose
Ming
cultivators
Mao
don't have the
didn't
filthy
senior sister tell you
thoughts of
before?
aristocratic
Xiao
family
Hua has a very
disciples.
bad temper.
I've never
If you
thought
don't
of
agree
running
with him,
away in the
he'll
face
turn
of battle.
hostile.
Not
Although
to mention
Xiao
that you're a
Hua's
female
words weren't
cultivator
particularly
from converted Thunder
unyielding.
Palace.
It was
Even if you were
absolutely
disciple of
impossible
Earth
for him
Thunder
to
Palace,
lose face
he wouldn't spare
in
you
front
a
of
glance.
Chui Hongshen.
If he wasn't this
Why would
cold
Chui
and
Hongshen
arrogant,
pay attention?
how could he have obtained
He flew to the
Hong
front
Xiafei's heart?
and said a few
You don't
words
need to
to
ask
DUI
to know this
Chi Ming
reason,
and the
right?
others. Then
And
sped
that's
up
right.
and flew
Junior
forward.
sister has
He was
really
completely
learned.
acting like a
Ming Mao
confident
smiled
captain.
bitterly.
Let them
and
be,
said,
self-deprecatingly, whose cultivation
However,
base was
she
the
still stuck a
highest
glance
among
at
the 10
Xiao
people,
Hua,
was actually
somewhat
very
unwillingly.
relaxed. He opened
Some
his
women
mouth
seem to be
and put
like this.
several azure
The more you
spirit
gave
pills
them
in his
face,
mouth,
the
as
more
if
they
he was
felt you
eating
didn't
beans.
have any backbone.
All kinds of
However,
cultivation
if
methods
you gave
were
them
operating
face,
at the same
the more
time.
they felt you had
the medicinal
character.
efficacy of the azure spirit pill,
Especially
which
someone like
required
Xiao
a late
Hua,
foundation
who could actually
establishment
fight
cultivator
with their own
to
senior
refine
brother.
for several
In their
days.
eyes,
He was
all
all
the
the
more
refined bit
unyielding,
by bit from
a
his
rarely
meridians
seen,
and body.
unyielding character.
At the same time,
How could
the
Xiao
Earth
Hua have the
Crystal
time
Yao
to talk
milk
to them about
in his
this?
meridians was
Xiao
also
Hua had
being
already learned
refined
from Zhen
in
Yin
an orderly
that the
manner.
grudges between the
Xiao
various
Hua
sects
wanted to
were
take advantage
forbidden
of this
during the
relaxed
war.
moment.
However,
to raise his
the
cultivation
problem was that
base
his
as
enemy
soon as
wasn't
possible.
just anyone.
10,000
but a
li
nascent
northeast
soul
of where
cultivator.
Xiao Mao
Yes,
was ambushed,
just as Zhen Yin
was the
said,
border between
if
Lian
Daoist
and
Jingru
Han
attacked him,
countries. He could
it
send
was
a
still
message
covered
to
in
Zhen Yin
ice and snow,
and have Zhen Yin
and an
report it
endless
to Sky
mountain
Patrol
range
City's
lay on the
discussion
ground
hall
like a
to be
silver
dealt with.
dragon.
The
There was
whole
no
process
wind or snow
seemed to
at
be
this
very
time,
reasonable,
and a pale
but
white
would
round
Daoist
sun hung in
Jingru
the sky
allow him to
on
send
the
a
quiet
message?
ground.
Even if
30
Xiao
or
Hua
so
sent a
sword
message,
cultivators of
would
both
Zhen Yun
sexes
or the
slowly
discussion hall
flew
dare
over from
to
the south.
interfere?
Each
To
of them
offend a
wore
nascent
strange
soul
armor
cultivator
and
for a
stepped on
late
flying
stage
swords.
foundation
Some of Some of these swordsmen had injuries on their bodies. Perhaps even Master Qian
some
Lei
had
of
bloodstains
Imperial
that hadn't been
would have to
removed.
think twice
However,
before acting.
they all had smiles
Not to
on their
mention
faces.
the discussion hall,
And more than one
since the
storage
discussion
pouch
hall
hung on their
couldn't
waists.
protect him.
It was obvious
Then
that this was the
would have to
side
think
that
of
won the
away
battle
himself.
with the Dao Sect
In fact,
cultivators.
the best
They
way
were
was for
returning to
Xiao
the
Hua
Fengming
to
mountain
play
range
dead,
with a
just walk
full
away.
load of rewards.
Next was to change his
Senior
appearance.
Marshal Brother Xiang.
With the sky stealing,
This move of yours
sun
is
swapping
really good.
technique, in addition
A
to the
petite female
swordsman
technique
with an admiring
that he had
smile,
already memorized,
said to a fourth grade
even
swordsman.
a nascent soul
The other
cultivator
swordsmen
wouldn't be able
are
to see
fighting
any
with the Dao
flaws.
sect on the west
Xiao
side.
Hua had
of the
absolute
Fengming
confidence
mountain
in
range.
hiding
We
from
ambushed
Daoist
them
Jing
on the
Ru's
east
gaze.
side and
Should
killed
I leave?
so many cultivators
How should I leave?
in an instant.
This was a
Our
question
harvest is
that
quite
Xiao Hua
bountiful.
was constantly
This kind of
thinking
method.
about. I have
Junior
plenty.
brothers. The tall
Just as
senior
Xiao
brother
Hua was
Xiang's
pondering,
face was filled with
Hongxin
glory
smiled
as he smiled
and clapped his
and
hands.
said, How's
This
everyone
diversion
getting to know
tactic
each other?
is nothing
In the
much.
next several years,
We just need to act quickly,
or even more than
and
10
leave
years.
before the Tao
The
sect
10 of
can
us will be
react.
together day and night.
Dozens
Everyone
of
must
chi,
share wheel
refining
and
cultivators
woe,
and support
several
each other.
early foundation
This way,
establishment cultivators
our first
were
team will
all
be able to
killed by
endure
our
the
flying
baptism
swords.
of war.
We didn't even
and
send out a
return to the
messaging
Imperial
talisman.
Thunder sect.
So how
with
would
a
they
brand
know?
new appearance?
A cold-faced male
TSK,
swordsman
only a
was
ghost would believe
displeased
that.
with Senior Marshal
Xiao Hua
Brother
snorted
Xiang's
disdainfully and
That's
coldly
right.
thought,
This is all
this young
thanks to
master
Junior
will
Brother
find a chance to
lose
don't die in the
amazing
hands of
methods.
our own people.
He didn't even let a
instead of being
cultivator go.
killed by the sword
Senior Brother
cultivators.
Xiang did not seem to mind.
We've
as he
already chatted for a
continued in
while
mysterious
and are
manner.
somewhat familiar
However,
with each other.
Don't
But
forget
still
about
too
the Dao
early to
sect
share
cultivators
wheel
on
and
patrol
woe, like
in the
Captain
Wind
said.
Dream Mountain
The
Range.
war has just
a patrolling
begun,
cultivator?
so there's plenty of
Just
time
kill them
for
all.
us to familiarize
Junior Brother Lu
ourselves with each
replied,
other without hesitation.
DUI,
But what about their
hastily
messages?
nodded and said,
Senior
right
Brother
now,
Xiang,
we
asked
better hurry
confidently
to
with a
Chicken Crow
smirk.
Mountain.
It's better to finish
Junior
this
Brother Lu
first
was at a
mission
loss for
as
words,
soon as possible,
not knowing how to respond.
And Cui
At
Hong
this
Shen
moment,
was very
a
happy.
divine
He glanced
telekinesis
at Zhun Mingli
swept
and said,
over from the side
just
of the
now,
swordsman. This
Upon
Chui discussed
contact
with Senior
the
Brother
swordsman
Mingli
immediately
and felt that
locked
since
onto
Chicken
them.
Crow Mountain sent out the message,
Damn it.
although it
Senior
didn't mention
Marshal
whether or
Brother
not they were
Xiang
attacked
sensed
by
the
sword
divine
cultivators,
telekinesis,
there's a chance that they
and his
might be
expression
attacked.
changed
Therefore,
slightly.
we
He
can't
waved his
directly
hand
go
and
over.
said,
It's
"Quick,
best if we reach
let's
the
fly on our
vicinity of
swords
Chicken
and
Crow
see if we
Mountain
can escape
and
from these
gradually
cultivators.
approach.
Don't
Junior
rush
Brother
and all
Lu
of a sudden
immediately
we
sent a
might fall
message
into a
on your
sword
flying
cultivator's ambush.
See which Senior Brother
That's
is
right.
closer
Captain
to
Chui
this
is
place,
right.
and
Ming Mao
immediately
clapped
come to our
and
rescue.
smiled. With Captain
Yes,
Chui's
this little
command,
brother understands.
we can sit back and
Junior
relax.
Brother Lu did
As
not
she spoke,
dare to say anything
she glanced
else.
at DUI.
He opened his
Qiming
mouth
teasingly.
and spat out a
DUI,
small inch-long
Qiming rolled her eyes at
It
her.
circled
Some
slightly in
shyness
the
her
air
eyes.
and flew straight
What are you
ahead.
waiting for?
This group
Cui
of
Hong
swordsmen
Shen was still
had
worried
only flown
and
for
asked
half a
Su
meal's
Qing
time
and the
before they were
others.
surrounded by several
We'll listen to
patrolling
Captain Chui's
cultivators.
instructions.
Just by looking at
Everyone
their numbers
nodded
and
without
power,
any doubt.
They were
But at this
similar
moment,
to the
a
swordsman.
discordant voice
Don't even think
rang
about
out.
leaving.
Do as you
The
wish.
first few
Everyone was
mid-foundation
slightly
establishment
stunned
cultivators
and
to
looked up.
arrive.
Wasn't that
shouted
Xiao Hua,
angrily,
who
you
had
sneak
an
attacked our
indifferent
Dao
expression?
sect
In
disciples
any case,
in our country
he
of
would find
Lian,
an opportunity
and you think
to
you can
slip
leave
away.
so peacefully?
So he did as he wished.
Well, leave your heads behind.
You,
As
Chui
they
Hong
spoke,
Shen
the few
regretted
foundation
asking such an
establishment
indifferent
cultivators
question.
clapped their hands. Their respective
DUI,
Dharma artifacts
Qiming hurriedly
flew
asked,
into the air.
since Captain
emitting
Chui has already
different
made a
colors
decision,
of light. We should
and
smash
hurry and
towards
leave.
the swordsman.
Even if we're late,
the Chi
it
refinement
won't be good.
cultivators following
All right.
behind.
Chui Hong
the few
Shen gritted his
foundation
teeth
establishment
and nodded.
cultivators
Before I leave,
also clapped
this
their
Chui
hands.
still has something to
All
say.
kinds of yellow
Then
talismans
he
and
pointed at
Dharma
Zhun Ming
artifacts
Wei
and
flew
said,
out from their storage
Senior
bags
Brother Ming
and
Hui's
attacked the
cultivation
swordsman
and
from all
experience
directions.
are much higher
Ha,
than
ha,
this
ha.
Chui's.
Such attack power is
Unfortunately,
really too weak.
This Chui
I'll
received
let you all
Senior
see
Brother
what a
Zhun
sword
Yan's request
cultivator is.
and took the
As they
captain's
spoke,
token.
the
In
many
the
sword
future,
cultivators
this Chui
did
still
not
has
hesitate.
many things to
The
consult
flying
Senior
swords
Brother
under
Ming
their
Hui.
feet
Therefore,
flew out like
this Chui would
horses.
like to invite
Sword
Senior
light
Brother Ming Hui
flashed
to be
as
the
they met
vice
the
captain
swordsman.
of small team
Poochie,
one.
Poochie.
What do you all think?
All the yellow talismans
When
were
Zhun
no
Ming Hui
match
heard
for the
this,
flying
a
swords.
trace of joy appeared
They were
on
all
his
broken.
face.
A
He
few low-level
immediately
Dharma
waved his
artifacts
hand
were
and
also
said,
no match
Captain
for the flying
Chui,
swords.
This is
They were either
inappropriate
pierced or
since
sent
this
flying
Zhun
by the
is a
flying
member of Small
swords.
Team 1.
Flying swords
I naturally
were
have to
indeed
contribute
not
to
something
Small
that
Team
Dharma
1.
artifacts
Even
could
if there are
match.
any dangerous missions, this Zhun
What
will
sword
definitely
cultivators?
go. This
You're just
vice
using your
captain
primordial
position
spirit
should be left
to control
to
your
someone
swords.
more knowledgeable.
What's the difference between you and us?
Senior Brother Ming
The
Hui.
mid-foundation
Since Captain
establishment
Chui has
cultivator
said
in the
so,
lead,
this
had already
concubine
taken
has
out
no
his
objections.
pagoda-shaped Dharma
If Senior
artifact.
Brother Ming
After
Hui
preparing a
can't
spell,
find a better
he
candidate,
pointed his finger.
then Vice Captain
pagoda
Zhun
pressed
should
down
reluctantly
like a huge
accept this
boulder,
position,
while the cultivator
DUI
spoke
Qiming
coldly.
hurriedly gave Ming
Then,
Mao
I'll let you know
and
what a
DUI
sword
a
cultivator
look
is.
and said hurriedly.
A trace of disdain
That's right.
appeared on Senior
We have no
Marshal
objections.
Brother Xiang's
How could
face.
Ming Mao and
He
the
formed a
others not
spell
know?
with his hand.
They hurriedly
and the
clapped
flying
their
sword
hands
changed.
and said,
It turned into a
If you
shooting
don't believe
star
me,
and shot
ask
toward
them.
the pagoda.
Zhun Ming
with a
Hui's
long
cultivation
tail.
was the highest.
The pagoda
in
was
thunder-shaking
clearly an
powers.
extremely
So how could the
powerful
others have
Dharma
any
Dharma
objections.
artifacts.
It
Words
trembled
such as
rapidly
very
in
good
midair.
were not spared.
The surrounding heaven
Only Xiao
and
Hua's,
earth's spiritual
as you wish,
chi
was a bit abrupt.
madly rushed into.
Will you die if you don't speak?
Rays of light
Cui
that looked like
Hongshun
little
gritted his
Xiao
teeth
Hua's
again.
buds condensed
Sure enough,
around the pagoda.
Zhun Mingwei pointed
Waves
at
of
Xiao
Dharma
Hua
energy
and
surged
said,
out, and
although
waves
junior
of
brother
power
Xiao has just
slammed
entered Foundation
towards the swordsman
establishment
from the
he
pagoda,
still has some
although
fame.
the swordsman
Moreover,
saw that his
he
flying
and Captain
sword had
Shui are
broken
fellow
through the range of the
disciples of the same
pagoda's
sect.
Dharma energy and was rushing towards
No
the
matter
bottom
what,
of the pagoda.
he can cooperate
There
with
was no
Captain
joy
Shui
on his
in all
face.
aspects.
He knew
This
very
Zhun
well
feels
that
that
although
it is better
sword
for junior
cultivators
brother
were known
Xiao
for their
to be the
attack
vice
power,
captain,
they only
if you
had
like
an
this
advantage
work,
against
you are welcome to
cultivators
come
of the
achieve
same
it.
level.
Come to
If
vote
they were to
for it.
fight against cultivators of the same level who had powerful Dharma artifacts, or
Chapter
cultivators of higher
22,
level.
44.
They really had
Tisk.
no advantage.
Xiaohua flicked his
That shooting
sleeves
star was
and
also
said with disdain,
abnormally powerful.
"Why are you pulling me
Not
over
only
for
was
no
the tail
reason?
of the sword
You can be my captain if you
flashing
want.
with brilliance,
I'm not
but
interested."
the tip of the sword was also
Xiaohua,
vibrating.
the vice
as
sect
if it
leader of
wanted
the
to
heavenly
pierce
demon
through the
sect,
void.
was
This
disdainful.
vibration was also
So why would he
disturbed
care
by
about
the
the
fluctuations of the pagoda.
However,
The
his words were
series
not
of rumbling
very sensible
sounds
at this time.
faintly sounded in the
see?
space between
Senior brother
shooting
Minghui,
star
I have
and
a headache.
pagoda. The
At this
flying
time,
sword and
Chui
the Dharma
Hongshan
artifact had
actually
yet
let
to
come
go
into
and
contact,
pointed at Xiao
but they were
Hua
already
and said,
fighting.
He doesn't
Fall,
treat little
the Foundation
brother as a
establishment
senior brother at all.
cultivators.
Do you think he can
Eyes narrowed.
cooperate with little
He
brother?
shook his hand.
For the sake of
and
our
the shadow
10
of the
lives,
pagoda
senior
appeared from the
brother
bottom
Minghui
and
should
rapidly
agree.
fell.
All right, break.
The
Zhan
swordsman
Minghui's
sneered.
eyes
His
flashed with a
fingertips
smile
moved slightly
and said with some
following his
difficulty,
fingertips.
Since that's
the
the
tip of the
case,
shooting star,
I can
also
only
moved.
reluctantly
A
agree.
ray of sword
Good.
light
Junior
flew
brothers,
out from the tip of the
since
sword,
senior brother
and
Minghui has
pierced
agreed
into
to
the
be my
shadow
first
of
team's
the
vice
pagoda.
captain, then his words are my words.
When I'm not here,
Chapter
we must follow
22:38.
senior brother Minghui's
Let's go.
lead.
The sword
Chui
cultivator
Hongshan
glanced
said
over
while clapping
and
his
spat
hands.
a mouthful
We
of
understand.
sword energy
DUI
into his flying
Qiming
sword.
and the others
The
all
sword
agreed.
cultivator's spirit
Only Xiao
followed
Hua
the
looked
sword,
unhappily
and he
at the
wanted to
cave
escape.
entrance.
Don't you
covered
think
by
it's
the
too
light
late to
fog,
leave now?
Without any
The white-haired
expression on his
cultivator
face.
said
However,
coldly.
Xiao
He raised
Hua's
his hand
heart was
and a
somewhat
long
bewildered.
nine-section bamboo
What is Chui
whip
Hongshan
appeared
doing?
out of
He made
thin
Jin
air.
Minghui
The
the
nine-section
vice-captain.
whip was
Isn't that a
pale
threat to
golden
him?
color.
If this guy
Starting from
suddenly
the handle,
attacks Chui
each section was
Hongshan,
shorter
then
than the
only Zhen
previous one.
Minghui can be the
Between
captain.
each section
Isn't
of
this
the
just
bamboo,
looking for trouble?
there were
I
complicated
really don't know what
talismans
this cultivator
flashing.
family's pig
Even the
head
bamboo
is thinking.
sections were
Xiao Hua
faintly
was still
flowing
thinking too
with
much.
mysterious
Perhaps he didn't
talismans.
know that the captain's
Break.
token in
After the
Chui
white-haired
Hongshan's
cultivator
hand was like a
finished
magic
speaking,
tool that
he dragged the
needed blood
bamboo
to
whip
recognize
without
its master.
hesitation.
Without
A whip
Chui
shadow was
Hongshan's
born from the
activation,
bamboo whip.
even if he died,
It was like a coquettish
others wouldn't be able
golden
to open it.
dragon.
Chui
flashing
Hongshan
with
could
intense
casually
light.
record
A
things
sharp
inside
hurricane
without
seemed to
others
tear
knowing.
the void apart
After the battle,
as it
the
slashed
Imperial Thunder
towards the
Sect
sword
could
cultivator.
only use a secret
The sword
technique
cultivator's
to
flying
take back the
speed
token.
was
If
extremely
Zhen Minghui
fast.
really
In a
did
moment,
the evil thing
he had
that
already
Xiao Hua
flown a
thought
few
of,
feet.
how could the
However,
Imperial Thunder Sect
the whip shadow
not
was
know?
even faster
After Zhen
and
Minghui
struck the
removed
sword
the formation
cultivator
flag
like lightning.
and put away the formation
Ka-cha-cha.
plate,
The sword
everyone
cultivator's
flew
body
out of the cave,
flashed a few
Chui
times
Hongshan
before it
instructed.
was annihilated.
Senior
The
Marshal
flying
Brother
sword
Minghui.
under the sword
Let's do as we
cultivator's
discussed
feet was
just now.
smashed into
The
pieces.
range of your divine
The sword
sense
cultivator's
is
body
large,
was also
so you'll lead
smashed
the way.
into several pieces.
Later on,
Senior
you'll follow
Li
Su
Zongbao
Qing, the
and
Foundation
Qiu Su in
establishment
turn.
cultivator,
The distance between the
who had
three
closed
of
his
you would be
eyes and
maintained
waited for death,
at least
did not
1,000
see it
feet.
coming.
The two
When he heard the
aura
sound
refining
of
weapons
weapons
colliding,
and the
he
female
opened his
cultivator
eyes
from the
and
Thunder
saw the
Conversion Palace
white-haired
would be in the middle,
He was
Xiao
extremely
Hua
surprised
will bring up
and
the
said,
rear. This
"Why are
Chui
you
has
here?
some matters to discuss.
This
with
white-haired
Xiao Hua.
cultivator was
So I will
actually
accompany
Li
him for the time
Zongbao,
being. A
Yes,
disciple
Captain
of the
Chui.
utmost happiness
Everyone
faction,
nodded,
who practiced
without
the
hesitation.
leeching treasure mirror.
Zhen Minghui
took the
Li
lead and
Zongbao's
flew up,
gaze swept
releasing
over
his
the cultivator
spiritual will.
who was about to cry
Su
from
Qing
joy.
and Qiu
He only
Su
responded
followed
and
closely
dragged the
behind.
bamboo whip again.
Following
He
Chui
activated
Hongshan's
his mana
instructions
and waved it.
Once DUI
Like
Qiming
waves,
and the
the
rest
whip
were more
shadow
than 300 meters
smashed
towards
away.
the weapon
Chui
cultivator,
Hongshan looked
who was
up
also
and said in a low
fleeing in
voice,
panic. Xiao Hua,
"Rumble,
the
come
whip
with me.
shadow fell.
I have something to
and
tell
there was
you."
the sound of
Oh,
wind and
what's there to
thunder.
say?
The weapon
Xiao Hua
cultivator's
urged his
magic
expression
power changed
and
greatly.
slowly flew away.
As he spat out
His
golden
speed
gas,
was even
he
slower
tried his
than
best
that
to
of
block the
ordinary
whip shadow.
Foundation
At the same
establishment
time, his
cultivators.
body glowed.
His tone was
Not only
somewhat
did his
different.
speed
Chui
suddenly
Hongshan's
increase,
eyes
but the
flickered a
magic
few
weapon
times,
form of his
and
long
he clenched his
spear
teeth,
also
but he still
rapidly
endured
appeared.
it.
After
Bang,
flying
bang,
straight
bang,
for an
bang.
hour,
In
he
the blink
said,
of an eye,
Xiao Hua,
the
this
overwhelming
Chui knows
number
you have a
of
problem
whip
with this
shadows
Chui.
smashed
You don't see this
onto the
Chui
artifact
as a
cultivator's
senior martial
body.
brother.
Every
To
whip
tell you the
shadow
truth,
would make a
this
loud
Chui
sound.
is the same as
After
you.
every
I don't see
loud
you
sound,
as a junior martial
the artifact
brother.
cultivator's body
If that's the
would
case,
fall a few
what else is
feet.
there to say?
In the end,
Xiao Hua rolled
the
his
weapon
eyes
cultivator
and
was
said
actually
coldly,
smashed
this
into the
Chui
ground by
doesn't
the whip
see
shadow.
you as a junior martial
Boom.
brother.
The
But
deep
eldest
pit that the
senior martial
equipment
brother
cultivator had
sees
fallen
you
and is
as a
seen to
treasure.
explode as countless golden lights
Moreover,
rushed out.
Master
master and master's wife also
the golden
told
lights were
this
mixed
Chui
with some
to protect
bloody
you.
lights.
Chui
After
Hong
the sound was
said
heard,
coldly.
he looked at the
If it
deep
weren't for
pit
them,
again.
this
There was
Chui
only
would
a long
definitely
spear
pretend
lying
not
at
to
the
know
bottom
you.
of the pit.
But since they
And
said
there were
so,
traces of blood,
and this Chui
and
also
minced
made a
meat
guarantee
around
in
it.
front of them.
The tool
This
cultivator
Chui can't
had
actually
not
rely on my
smashed to
own
pieces by
strength
Li
to protect
Zongbao's bamboo
you.
whip.
What
The
ability
foundation
do you have to
establishment
protect
cultivator
this
from the
Xiao?
Utopia
Xiao Hua
faction
almost laughed out
sucked
loud.
in a breath
This
of cold
Chui
air.
doesn't have any
Of
ability.
course, he had
So
heard of
ever
Li
since I boarded
Zongbao's
the Thunderbolt,
reputation.
I've been
Li
looking for an
Zongbao had
opportunity.
never made a move
Chui
in a
Hong
fight
Shun
between
suppressed
fellow
his
faction
anger
members
and said
he had never
imagined
imagined
this position
that
of captain of the
Zongbao would be
Imperial Thunder
so
Sect's
powerful
first team
now.
was obtained
Although
by
his
this
cultivation
Chui
level
out of
was
thin
only
air.
at the peak
Do you think
of the Middle
Jinyin will
Foundation
give this
establishment
opportunity
stage.
to this
His
Chui
strength
out of
was
thin
close to
air?
the peak
This
of the
Chui
late Foundation
used spirit
establishment
stones
stage.
and medicinal pills
Isn't this
to
a mortal
exchange for
piercing
this.
whip a little too powerful?
That's what you want.
The
It seems
Foundation
to have nothing
establishment
to do with this.
cultivator
Xiao
was secretly
Xiaohua didn't
jealous.
accept his kindness.
What are you waiting
If you
for?
look into the distance,
Li
and
Zongbao
said,
glared at the
fellow
Foundation
Taoist
establishment
Chui
cultivator.
seems to want
But
to
his
protect
figure
the
did not
female
stop.
cultivators of the converted Thunder Palace.
He flew
right?
up and
Whatever you
pounced
say,
towards the
Chui
equipment
Hong
cultivator on
Shun
the other
said
side.
indifferently.
His pure
This
white
Chui
hair
doesn't
fluttered
care
in
what
the
you
air
think.
and scattered
In any case,
mercilessly.
this Chui will make
Yes,
it
I
clear to you
understand.
now.
The Foundation
This Chui has the
establishment
captain's token.
cultivators,
So
heart
this
trembled.
Chui can take the
He moved
position
his
of
body
captain.
and
Before we
hurriedly
reach Chicken
went
Crow
to help
Mountain,
the other disciples.
you should find a chance to
Li
fly away
Zongbao
early.
was as
This
ferocious
Chui
as a
will tell the
tiger
others
in a
that
flock
this
of sheep.
Chui received
Although
a
the
message
equipment
from the
cultivator
Imperial
Thunder
defense
Sense was
to send you
incomparably
elsewhere.
powerful.
You should find a
And the
safe
sword
place
cultivator's
and
attack
hide
was
well.
also
After the battle
unparalleled.
is over,
Under his merciless
contact this Chui
immortal
again.
piercing whip,
If this Chui
there was almost
still has
no
a
one who
breath
could
of life,
withstand
you can
more
return
than
to my
3
Imperial
moves.
Thunder Sex
In the time it
first
took
team.
to drink a cup of
Huh.
tea,
If this
not
Xiao
only did he
leaves
reverse
like
the
this,
previous
the other
declines
disciples
of the
faction,
converted Thunder
but he
Palace,
also killed
more than
in the
10
cultivation
cultivators
3
and sword
kingdoms.
cultivators. There isn't
The
any
remaining
punishment?
equipment cultivators
Xiaohua raised
saw
his
that
eyebrows
things were
and
not
asked
going
curiously.
well.
With a
The
whistle,
punishment for
they
escaping
fled
the
in
battle
all
in the
directions
cultivation
under the
3
lead of the
kingdoms
sword
is
cultivator.
one word:
Death. Seeing the sword
There is no other
cultivators
choice.
flee, Li Zongbao narrowed his eyes.
Chui Hong
Hong
Shun
Shun
said
said
coldly.
flashed across his face.
However,
Immediately
Chui
after,
already said
the
just
sleeves
now
of
that
his
this
Taoist
Chui
is the captain of the
robe
first
suddenly
team,
swelled up.
sending you out on a
The
mission.
immortal
is
piercing
normal.
whip in his hand
As long as
swung
this
in
Chui
midair
is
and drew a
alive,
semicircle.
no one will investigate.
More than
you.
10 whip
If
shadows
this Chui
flew out
unfortunately
and
falls,
chased after
then
the sword
this
cultivators
Chui
in
also
all
won't be able to
directions.
protect you. Li Zongbao actually
if you
wanted to
feel
kill
that leaving
all
now
these
is
sword
too
cultivators
early
and
bang,
too
bang,
hurried
bang,
will arouse the
a series of
suspicion
sounds
others,
could be heard.
then you can leave at
The
any
immortal
time.
piercing
When
whip
you
had
leave,
caught up with the sword
you only need to send a
cultivators.
message to this
But after
Chui.
all,
They
this
were too far
Chui
away.
can also give
Except
an
for
explanation
one
to
sword
others
cultivator
and
who
pave
was
the
killed
way
by
for
the
your
whip
return
shadows
after
in
the
midair.
battle.
The rest
All
of the
right,
sword cultivators
without waiting
and
for
equipment
Xiaohua to
cultivators
speak,
all used
Chui
their
Hong
flying
Shun
swords
urged
to
his
block
magic
the whip
power,
shadows,
and
they
immediately
staggered in the
flew
air for a
forward.
while.
This
And with
Chui
a
has
faint
said
glow on their
everything that
bodies,
needs to be said.
they continued
You
to
decide what to
flee.
do. You guys got lucky.
Xiaohua laughed
At this
softly
time,
and said,
the red light,
since
on Li
fellow
Zongbao's
Dao's
Chui
face
is
receded
so benevolent
and was
and
replaced by a
righteous,
slightly
why
pale
wouldn't this
face.
Xiao be happy?
With a wave of his hand,
Farewell.
he put the immortal
Xiaohua
piercing
cupped his
whip
hands
in his storage
and turned
bag.
around to fly towards a snow-covered
Then, with a clap of his
foothill on
hand,
right.
he took out a pill,
Puff,
seeing
and
that
popped it into his
Xiaohua
mouth.
really did escape.
This immortal
Chui
piercing
Hong
whip
Shun
was a
let out a
powerful
long
magic
sigh of
weapon.
relief. After
It
killing
seemed like he had
so many sword
unloaded a
cultivators
heavy
and
burden,
equipment
and
cultivators,
his face
with it.
relaxed.
Li
His figure
Zongbao
didn't
Dharma
stop
power
and
actually
was about to
showed
fly
signs of
forward.
drying up.
Although
Thank you,
Xiaohua
Senior
flew
Brother
away,
Li.
many
Many
cultivators
cultivators
of the
Buddhist
Utopia
sense
faction
who had
clearly
escaped with their
saw
lives
Chui
were
Hong Shun's
overjoyed.
expression.
They
Yeah,
stepped forward.
this guy really
and
wants to
bowed
let this
to
young
pay their
master go.
respects.
Xiaohua was
Li Zongbao
astonished.
looked at the
Could
disciples
it be that he didn't want to set a
indifferently
trap for
and
this young
ordered,
master?
I was just
At this
passing
time,
by.
if he called
and
someone
rushed
else
over
back,
after receiving
this
your
young
message
master
talismans.
can't escape
all
the
of
crime
you.
of desertion.
Tidy up this place,
or maybe this guy will
gather
wait
at the
until this young
stronghold.
master is far away.
Yes, we understand.
And see Zhang Yun
When the disciples
to
heard
falsely
that Li
accuse this young
Zongbao
master.
wanted them to clean up the mess,
How can this young master
they were
let him have his
overjoyed
way?
and smiled apologetically.
Besides, this
Senior
guy is
Brother Li,
nothing more than
where are
a
you going?
nephew of a
Why are there
cultivator
so
family?
many storage
He can
bags
participate
of sword
in the sword cultivator
and
battle
equipment
with a mere
cultivators left
early
behind?
stage foundation
Do you want to take a look at them?
establishment
I'm under
cultivation.
orders to go to
This
the Sky
young
Patrol
master,
City,
a late stage
Zongbao
foundation
tone
establishment
was still
cultivator.
indifferent. Doesn't
What's
dare
the use of
to
the items
participate
of
in the
sword
battle.
cultivators
If this young
and
master
equipment
leaves
cultivators
now,
in our town?
not only will I lose
You guys
face
can
as
take
a
them all.
loose cultivator,
After saying that,
I won't be able to
he
raise
flew
my
up
head
into
in
the
front of
sky
this guy
and
headed in the
future.
direction of
Even
the
if I'm a
Sky
golden
Patrol
core or
City.
nascent soul
PSK
cultivator.
Tisk. If this guy
Seeing that
mentions
Li
this
matter,
Zhong Bao
this
flew
young
away
master will
without
still owe
stopping.
him a favor.
The Foundation establishment
Maybe will even
cultivator
become
who had previously
demon.
held the pagoda
From the
said
beginning.
enviously.
Everything this young
Senior
master
brotherly
has done
Zhong
against
Bao
him
is
will also
indeed a
turn
famous
into
cultivator
flowing
in
water.
the 3 kingdoms of
Damn
cultivation.
it! Isn't it just
How
this
long has it
old
been since
thief
you built
Jing
your
Yan?
foundation?
Xiao Hua's eyes
You have already
flashed
cultivated
with a
to the
trace of sinister
peak
smile
of the middle
and
stage
he
of
thought
foundation
proudly.
establishment.
I want to see how
I'm
you will
afraid
kill
you can
this
break
young
through
master
to the
in
late
front of the
stage of
Imperial
foundation
Thunder Staff
establishment
disciples
at any time.
and the disciples
Even the
of
golden
Three
core
Kingdoms
stage
disciples.
is in sight.
As long as you can't
Alas,
kill me in front of
we
everyone,
can't compare with
I
senior
have the
brotherly
confidence
Zhong
to
Bao.
escape from your
Another
hands.
cultivator who is also in the middle stage of
Xiao
foundation
Hua's figure
establishment
paused,
side.
and he
Senior
immediately
brother
flew
Li
back.
is a young talent.
Oh,
he has
what?
been famous.
Do you still have
since he was
something to
young.
say?
His talent
Hongshan
is
was
rare
slightly
in the
stunned
entire
and asked
Xiaoyu
curiously.
continent.
Xiao Hua's
He is
tone
Martial
was still
Uncle
cold.
Hung Ming's favorite disciple.
You let this young master
Now,
leave now,
with the famous magic
and then you
weapon of our
immediately
Utopia
tell
faction.
everyone about this
His
young
strength
master's
is close
desertion.
to the peak.
Can this
of the
young
late
master's
stage
evidence
of
still be
foundation
cleared?
establishment?
Can this young
Exactly.
master
Martial
still
Uncle
escape the pursuit of the
is probably the
three
strongest
disciples?
person below.
This young
the Golden
master
Core
won't
stage.
fall for your trick.
And she, refining disciple,
Am I that kind of
whispered
person?
with admiration.
Cui Hongshan angrily scolded.
It should be about the same.
If you want to leave,
The
then
foundation
leave right
establishment
now.
cultivator
If I want to kill you,
who held the
would I
pagoda
still
nodded.
need to be so
These
despicable?
equipment cultivators
I'll just
and sword
directly smash you to
cultivators
death
are
with a
extremely
lightning
powerful
pearl.
in both
And let's do it
defense
openly
and attack.
Xiao Hua ignored
However,
him and
they're
said,
no match for
using
senior
underhanded
brotherly.
methods.
This is
what you're
basically the
best at.
strength.
Isn't
of
this
a
how you
golden
obtained
core
the position of
stage
captain of
cultivator.
the first squad?
If senior brotherly
You-
Zongbao
you-
is the
Shui
strongest
Hongshan was
person
so
below the
angry
golden
that he
core
was
stage,
trembling.
he definitely deserves it. No
He
one in
pointed
the
to
three
Xiao
kingdoms
Hua
of cultivation
and said you a
can
few
compare
times,
with him, but he was unable to say a single word. After waiting for a moment,
Chapter
Shui Hongshan
22,
seemed to have
39.
lost his
Let's
vitality.
go.
The sword
His face was
cultivator
somewhat
glanced
gloomy
over
as he said,
and spat a
Xiao Hua,
mouthful of sword
I don't know where you
energy
ran
into
off
his
to in this
flying
half a
sword.
year.
The sword
But this Shui
cultivator's
obtained a
spirit
lot of
followed the
information
sword,
about the
and he
war.
wanted to escape.
To be honest,
Don't you think it's
we
too late to
foundation
leave
establishment
now?
cultivators
The white-haired
have
cultivator
died more
said
than
Aura,
Aura. He
refining
waved his hand, and a
cultivators.
long nine-section
Moreover,
bamboo
Aura refining
whip
cultivators
appeared out of
only
thin
need to
air.
build their
The
foundation.
nine-section
to be able
whip
to
was
escape
pale
from the war.
gold in color.
We foundation
Starting from the
establishment,
handle,
early stage
each
disciples
section was shorter
are
than the
far from
previous
that
one.
lucky.
Between
The cruelty
each section
of
of
the
this
bamboo
war
is
there were
far from what you
complicated
can imagine.
talismans.
To be
flashing.
honest, it's already
Even
not
the
bad
bamboo
if one or two
sections
of
were
my first
faintly
squad
flowing
can return
with
alive.
mysterious
Alas,
talismans.
whatever should be
Great.
said,
With that
this
said,
Shui has
the
already
white-haired
said.
cultivator
This Shui's
whipped his
words have
bamboo
always
whip
been valid
without
in war.
hesitation. You can leave
A
at
whip
any
shadow
time.
appeared from the
Finished
bamboo
speaking.
whip.
Shui
Resembling a
Hongshan
demonic
no longer
little
paid attention
golden
to
dragon.
Xiao Hua.
It shone
and
with a
flew
bright
forward.
light.
This
and a
young
sharp
master wants to
hurricane
ask
that
you
seemed
something.
like it could tear the
Xiao
void
Hua
apart
suddenly
as it
asked.
streaked towards
My
the sword
Imperial
cultivator.
Thunder Sect
The sword
Master
cultivator's
Qian
flying
Lazy
speed was
were the
extremely
8 great
fast.
Thunder Palace's
In a
palace
moment,
masters.
he had already
When will they
flown a few
participate in
feet.
the war?
However, the whip
Shui
shadow
Hongshan
was even
sneered.
faster.
You're
and
still
struck
relying
the
on the
sword
sect
cultivator
master to
like
take care of
lightning.
you?
Don't
Kachacha.
dream. If
The
you
sword
wanted to,
cultivator's
would you be
body
sent out?
Flashed a
Fellow
few times
Dalan
before
Shui.
it was annihilated.
You just need to answer this.
The flying
Xiao's
sword
question.
under the sword
Xiao Hua
cultivator's
didn't answer
feet
him.
was smashed
They're
into
nascent
pieces.
soul seniors,
And the sword cultivator's
they will
body
only
was
appear
also
in the second
smashed
or
into
even
several
third
pieces.
phase of the war.
Senior Li Zongbao,
Shui Hongshan, the
said
foundation
coldly,
establishment
when they
stage
come out,
cultivator,
it will
who had
already
closed
be
his
more
eyes
than 10
and
years
waited for
later.
death,
At
did
that
not see
time,
it coming.
you'll have
When
already
he heard the
turned into
sound of
flying
weapons
ash.
colliding, he opened his eyes.
Even if you turn into
Seeing
flying
the white-haired
ash,
cultivator,
I absolutely
he was extremely
won't.
surprised.
When Xiao
and said,
Hua heard that Daoist
here?
calm consideration
This
would
white-haired
only come to the
cultivator
battlefield
was
10
actually
years
Li
later,
Zongbao,
he couldn't help
a
but
disciple
be
of the
overjoyed.
utmost
If he was
happiness
given 10
faction,
years,
who practiced
he really
the
wouldn't be
leeching
afraid
treasured
of
mirror.
nascent soul
Li
cultivator.
Zongbao's gaze swept over the cultivator who was about to cry from joy. He only responded and dragged
Chapter
the bamboo whip again,
22:45.
with a wave of his
You're really a
magic power.
loose
The
cultivator.
whip shadow.
You don't know the
smashed
gravity
towards the weapon
of the
cultivator,
situation.
who was
If we
also
don't escape
fleeing
now,
in panic
sigh,
like
when
a
will
wave.
we?
Rumble.
Shui
The
Hongshan
whip
sighed
shadow
when he saw
fell,
that Xiao
and there was the
Hua
sound
still
of
being
wind
impulsive.
and thunder.
He then shook his head.
The weapon
and
cultivator's
flew
expression
forward.
changed
What's wrong with
greatly.
loose cultivators?
As he spat out golden
Xiao
chi,
Hua curled
he
his
tried his
lips
best to block
and
the whip
replied,
shadow.
Loose
His body
cultivators
also
don't
glowed.
have the filthy
Not only did his
thoughts of
speed
aristocratic
suddenly
family
increase,
disciples,
but the magic
running
weapon
away
form
in
of
the
his
face
long
of
spear
battle
also
I've never thought of
rapidly
that.
appeared.
Although
Bang, bang,
Xiao
bang,
Hua's
bang.
words weren't
In the blink of an
particularly
eye,
unyielding,
the overwhelming
it was
number
absolutely
of whip
impossible
shadows
for him
smashed
to
onto
lose
the
face
artifact
in front of
cultivator's
Shui
body.
Hongshan.
Every whip
Why would
shadow
Shui
would
Hongshan
make a
care
loud
about him?
sound.
He flew to the
And
front
after
and
said
said
a
a
loud
few words to
sound,
DUI.
the artifact
Shimun
cultivator's
and
body
the others
would fall
then
a
sped
few
up
feet.
and flew forward.
In the end,
He was
the weapon
completely
cultivator
acting
was
like a
actually
competent
smashed
captain.
into the ground
Let
by
them
the whip
be.
shadow.
Xiao Hua,
Boom, whose cultivation
the deep pit
base
that
was
the
the
equipment
highest
cultivator
among the 10
had
people,
fallen and
was
seemed to
surprisingly
explode
relaxed
as
he
countless
opened his
golden
mouth
lights
and put
rushed
several
out.
azure spirit
Furthermore,
pills into his mouth.
The golden lights were
as if he
mixed
was
with
eating
some
beans.
bloody lights.
All kinds
After
of
the sound
cultivation
was heard,
methods were
he looked
operating
at the
at
deep
the same
pit
time.
again.
The
There was only
medicinal
a long
efficacy
spear
of the
lying
azure
at the bottom of the
spirit
pit,
pill,
which
and there were
required a
traces
late
of
foundation
blood
establishment
and
cultivator
minced meat
to
around it.
refine for
The tool
several
cultivator
days,
had actually
was
been
being
smashed to
refined
pieces
bit
by
by
Li's
bit from his
zone bows
meridians
bamboo
and body.
whip.
The foundation establishment cultivator from the Utopia faction was also being refined in an orderly manner.
Of course,
he had heard of Li
wanted to take
Zhongbao's
advantage of this relaxed moment
Li Zhongbao
to raise his
had
cultivation
never made a
base
move
in
as
a
soon
fight
as
between
possible.
fellow faction
10,000 Li
He had
northeast
never
of
imagined
where
that Li
Zhongbao
Zhongbao
would
would
be
be
ambushed
so
was the
powerful
border
now.
between Li
Although
and
his
country
cultivation
and Han
level
country
was only
it was
at the
still
peak
covered
of
in
the middle
ice and
foundation
snow,
establishment
and an
stage.
endless
His
mountain
strength
range
was
lay
close
on the
to the
ground
peak
like a
of
silver
the lake
dragon.
foundation
At this time,
establishment stage.
there was no wind.
Isn't this
or
a mortal
snow,
piercing whip
and a pale
little
white
too
round
powerful?
sun hung in
The
the sky.
foundation establishment
quiet
cultivator
ground.
was
30 or
secretly
so sword
jealous.
cultivators of
What are
both
you waiting
sexes
for? Li
slowly
Zhongbao
flew
glared at
over
the
from
foundation
south.
establishment
Each of them
cultivator,
wore
but his
strange
figure
armor
did
and
not
stepped
stop.
on flying swords.
Some of these
He
swordsmen
flew up
had injuries
and
on their
pounced
bodies,
toward the equipment
and
cultivator
some
on
had
the other
bloodstains
side.
that hadn't
His
been
pure
removed.
white hair
However,
fluttered in the air.
they all had
and
smiles
scattered
on their faces,
mercilessly,
and more than
Yes,
one
I
storage
understand.
pouch hung on
The
their
foundation
waist.
establishment
It was obvious that
cultivators
this was the
heart
side that
trembled.
won the battle.
He moved
with
his
the
body
Dao Sec
and
cultivators.
hurriedly
They were
went to help
returning
the
to
other
the Feng Ming
disciples.
mountain range.
Li
with a
Zhongbao
full
was as
load
ferocious
of
as a
rewards.
tiger in a flock
Senior
of
Marshal
sheep.
Brother Xiang,
Although the
this
equipment
move of yours
cultivators'
is
defense
really good,
was
a
incomparably
petite
powerful,
female swordsman
and a sword
with an admiring
cultivator's attack
smile
was also
said to a
unparalleled.
fourth-grade swordsman.
Under his merciless,
The other swordsmen
immortal
are
piercing
entangled
whip,
with the Dao
there was
Sec
almost
on the
no
west
one who
side
could
of the
withstand
Feng Ming
more
mountain
than
range.
3 moves.
We ambushed them on the
In the
east
time
side
it took to
and
drink a
killed
cup of
so many
tea,
cultivators.
not
in
only
an
did he
instant.
reverse
Our
the
harvest
previous
is
decline
quite
of
bountiful.
Taoist faction,
This
but
kind
he
of
also
method,
killed
I have a
more
lot
than
of it.
10
The
equipment
tall senior
cultivators
Marshal
and
Brother
sword
Xiang's
cultivators.
face was
The
full
remaining
of
equipment
glory.
cultivators
He smiled
saw
and
that
said,
things were not
"This
going
diversion
well."
tactic
With a
isn't
whistle,
much.
they
We just
fled
need to
in
move
all
quickly
directions
and
under the
leave
lead
before
of
the
the
Dao
sword
Sec
cultivator.
react.
Seeing
Dozens
the sword
of Qi
cultivators
refinement
flee,
cultivators
Li Zhongbao
and several
narrowed
early
his
stage
eyes,
foundation
and a faint
establishment
red light
cultivators were
flashed
killed by
across
our
his
flying
face.
swords.
Immediately
We didn't
after,
even send a message.
the sleeves
How could
of
they
his
know?
Taoist
A
robe
cold-faced male
suddenly swelled
swordsman
up.
was
The
unhappy
immortal
with
piercing
Senior
whip
Marshal
in
Brother
his hand
Xiang's
swung
arrogance
in
was
midair
displeased
and
Senior
drew a
Marshal Senior
semicircle.
Marshal
More
Brother
than 10
Xiang's
whip
engineer,
shadows
Marshal
flew
Brother
out
Xiang
and
chased
chased
after
after
the sword
is have
cultivators
Senior
in all directions.
T.
Li
Kissed
Zhongbao
have
actually
the
wanted
Dao
to kill
sect.
all
S.
these sword
T.
cultivators.
Bang,
Bang, bang. A series of sounds could be heard.
Marshal Senior.
The immortal piercing
But what
whip
about
had
their
caught up
messages?
with the sword cultivators.
Senior Brother
but
Xiang
after all,
asked
they were too
confidently
far away.
with a smirk.
Except for
This,
one sword cultivator
Junior
who
Brother
was killed
Liu
by the
was
whip
at a loss
shadows
for
in
words.
midair.
Not
The
knowing
rest of
how
the
to
sword
respond.
cultivators and
At this
equipment
moment,
cultivators
a
all took
divine
out their flying
telekinesis
swords to
swept
block the whip
over from the
shadows.
side of the swordsman.
They staggered in
Upon
midair,
contact,
and with a
the
faint
swordsmen
glow on their
immediately
bodies,
locked
they
onto them.
continued to
Damn it.
flee.
Senior Marshal
You guys
Brother
are lucky.
Xiang
At this
sensed
time,
the
the
chi
red
in his
light
expression
on Li
changed.
Zhongbao's face receded and was replaced by a
He waved his
slightly
hand
pale
and
face.
said,
With a
"Quick,
wave of his
let's
hand,
fly on our
he put the
swords
immortal
and see if we
piercing
can
whip
escape
in
from
his
these
storage
cultivators."
Junior Marshal Brother
Then, with a
Liu
clap of his hand,
sent a message on
he
your
took out a
flying
pill
sword as well
and popped it into
See
his
which
mouth.
Senior Marshal Brother
The
is
immortal
closer
piercing whip
and
was
come
a
to help.
powerful magic weapon.
Yes,
Li
Junior
Zhongbao
Marshal
had
Brother used it to
understands.
kill
So many
Marshal
sword
Brother
cultivators
Liu
and
didn't
equipment
dare to say
cultivators.
anything else.
But the magic
He opened his
power in
mouth
his body
and spat
was
out an
showing
inch-long
signs of
sword.
drying up.
It circled in
Thank
the
you.
air and Senior
Flew
Brother
straight
Liu.
ahead.
Many
The swordsmen
cultivators
had only
of the
flown
Utopia
for half a
faction
meal's
who had
time
escaped with
before
their
they were
lives
surrounded
were
by
overjoyed.
several groups of
They stepped
patrolling
forward and
cultivators.
bowed
Based on
to
their
pay
numbers and
respects.
power.
They were similar to the sword
Zhongbao looked at the
cultivators.
disciples and
Don't think of leaving.
and ordered,
The first
I was
few
just
mid-stage
passing by
foundation
and
rushed
establishment
over after
cultivators
receiving
to
a
arrive,
message,
shouted
shouted
angrily.
angrily.
All of
You
you,
ambushed our
tidy up
Dao
this place,
Sect disciples
and
in our
quickly
country
gather
of
at the
Lian,
nearest stronghold.
and you think you can leave
Yes,
so
we understand.
peacefully? When the
We'll leave your heads
disciples heard
behind.
that Li Zhongbao
With that,
wanted them to
the
clean up the
foundation
mess,
establishment
they were
cultivators
overjoyed,
clapped
and
their
smiled
hands.
apologetically.
Their respective Dharma
Senior Brother
artifacts
Liu, where are you going?
flew into
Why are
the
there
air,
so many storage
emitting
bags
different
of
colors
sword
of
cultivators
light,
and
smashed
equipment cultivators
towards the
left
swordsman?
behind? The Qi
You wanna take a look
refinement
at them?
cultivators
I'm under
who
orders to go to
followed
Sky
the
Patrol
Foundation
City.
establishment
Li
cultivators
Zhongbao's
clapped
tone
their
was still
hands as
indifferent.
well.
All
What use do
kinds
we
of
have for
yellow
sword
talismans
cultivators
and Dharma
and equipment
artifacts
cultivators
flew out from their storage
You guys could take them all
bags
and
After
attack
that,
the
the swordsman
he flew
from all
up into the
directions
sky and headed in the direction of
Such
Sky
attack
Patrol
power
City.
is really too weak.
TSK, I'll show you what a sword
TSK.
cultivator is.
Looking at Li Zong
With
Bao
that,
flying away
the sword
without
cultivators
stopping,
didn't hesitate.
the Foundation
The
establishment
flying swords
cultivator
under their
who had
feet
previously
flew
held the
out
pagoda
like
said
horses.
enviously.
Sword light
Senior brother Li
flashed
Zong Bao
as they
is
met the
indeed
swordsman.
a famous cultivator
Poochie,
in
Poochie.
the three kingdoms
All the
of
yellow
cultivation.
talismans were no
How long
match
has it
for
been
the
since you
flying
built your
swords.
foundation?
They were all
Now,
broken.
you have
A few
already
low-level
cultivated
Dharma
to the
artifacts
peak
were also
of the
no
middle
match for the
stage
flying
of Foundation
swords.
establishment.
They were either pierced
I'm afraid you
or
can
sent
break
flying.
through to the
Flying
late
swords
stage
were
of Foundation
indeed
establishment
not something
at
that
any time.
Dharma artifacts
Even the
could
golden
match.
core is in sight.
What sword cultivator?
Alas, we
You're
can't
just using your
compare with
primordial
senior brother Li
spirit
Zong
to
Bao.
control your sword.
Another cultivator
What's the
who was
difference
also
between
in the
you
middle
and
stage
us?
of Foundation establishment side and said, Senior
The
brother
mid-stage
Lee
foundation
is a young
establishment
talent.
cultivator.
He has been
in the
famous
lead
since
since
he was
already
young.
taken out his
talent
pagoda-shaped
is
Dharma
rare
artifact.
in the
After
entire
preparing a spell,
Xiaoyu continent.
he pointed his finger,
He is
and
martial
the pagoda
Uncle
pressed
Hung
down
Ming's
like a
favorite
huge
disciple.
rock.
Then I'll let you know
with
what
the
a sword
Utopia
cultivator
faction's
is.
famous magic weapon.
A trace of disdain
His strength
appeared
is
on
close to
senior
the peak
Marshall
of the
brother
late
Xiang's
stage of
face.
foundation.
He formed a
establishment.
spell with his hand.
Exactly,
And the flying
Marshall
sword
Uncle Li
transformed
Zongbao
into a shooting star.
is probably the
With a long
strongest
tail,
cultivator
it
below
rushed towards
the
the
golden
pagoda.
core.
And
Wu,
she,
the pagoda,
refining
was clearly an
disciple,
extremely
whispered with
powerful
admiration.
Dharma artifact.
Yes, it should be about the
It trembled
same.
rapidly.
The foundation
in midair.
establishment
The
cultivator
surrounding
who
heaven
held the pagoda
and
nodded
earth spiritual,
and said,
these weapon
madly
cultivators
rushed into
and
it.
sword cultivators
Rays of
are
light
extremely
that looked like
powerful
little
in
Xiaohua's
both
buds
defense
condensed
and
around
attack.
the pagoda.
However,
waves
they're no
of Dharma
match for
energy
Senior Brother Lee.
surged.
This is
And
basically
wave
the
after
strength
wave of Dharma
golden
energy
core
rushed
cultivator.
towards the swordsman.
If Senior
from
Brother
the
Li
pagoda.
Zongbao,
Although
is
the
strongest
swordsman
cultivator
saw that his
below the
flying
golden
sword
core,
had broken through the range
definitely
of the
deserves
pagoda's
it.
Dharma
In the
energy
entire
and rushed to
three
the bottom
kingdoms
of the
of
pagoda.
cultivation. There was
I'm
no
afraid
joy
no
on his
other
face.
foundation
He
establishment
knew very
cultivator
well that
can
although
match
sword
him.
cultivators were
But
known for their attack
another
power,
Chi refining
they only had an
disciple
advantage
whispered,
against
"Isn't
cultivators
Marshall
of the same
Uncle Li
level.
very young?
If they were to
Why
fight
does he
against
have a head full of
cultivators
white
of the
hair?
same level who had
This,
powerful Dharma
a foundation
artifacts,
establishment
or
cultivator
cultivators of a
hesitated
higher
and
level,
said,
they
I've
really
heard from my
wouldn't
teacher
have
that
any
Senior Brother
advantage.
Lee
The
once
shooting
led a
star was
team
also
to the abnormally
abnormally
powerful
to participate.
Not only
in
was the
feather
tail of the
deity
sword
meet.
flashing
I don't know what
with light,
happened, but his
the tip of
hair
the sword is
turned
also
white overnight,
vibrating.
Since that
as if
day,
it
his
wanted to
cultivation
pierce
has
through the
improved
void.
by leaps
This
and
vibration
bounds,
was also
far
disturbed
surpassing
by the
his previous
fluctuations
cultivation
of the
speed.
pagoda.
No one
A
in the
series
Utopia
of rumbling
faction
sounds
can match
faintly
him.
sounded in
Marshall
space
Uncle
between
Li
the shooting
seems
star
disdainful
and
to
the
be with
pagoda.
us.
The flying
The Chi
sword
refining
and the Dharma
disciple
artifact
asked again.
hadn't even
The
come in
foundation
contact,
establishment
but they were
cultivator
already
glared at
fighting
him and
Fall,
said
the foundation
"What do
establishment
you know?
cultivator
I've heard that
narrowed
Senior
his
Brother Li
eyes
Zongbao
and shook his hand.
seems to be
The
practicing
shadow of
the
a
famous
pagoda
parting mirror
appeared from the
of
bottom
Utopia
and
faction.
fell rapidly.
It has a heart
Break,
like iron,
the swordsman
emotions
sneered.
like steel,
His fingertips
and Tao
moved
like
slightly,
the heavens, and the tip of the
My
shooting
goodness,
star
it's so
also
powerful.
moved. A
Tao,
ray of
like the
sword light
heavens.
flew out
The
from
Chi
the tip
refining
of the sword
disciple
and
was
pierced into the
speechless again.
shadow of the pagoda. Of course, the Tao of Heaven is emotionless. If you want to have a profound
Chapter
cultivation,
2246.
you naturally have to cut
It was
off
as if
your
the treasured
emotions
sword
in order
had
to be
pierced
close
the
to the
pagoda.
Tao of
The
Heaven.
pagoda's shadow,
The parting
rippled
mirror
a
of the
few
Utopia
times
faction
before disappearing.
is said
The
to
sword's
be the
light
cultivation
also flickered
method closest
continuously
to the Tao
before
of
disappearing.
Heaven.
He
Then in the
fall,
end, won't he lose his
fall.
emotions?
The cultivator
Then,
regained
is he
his
still
confidence.
Of
Enchanted
course not.
An
He's a
incantation.
celestial.
A
celestial
of pagoda
who can destroy the
shadows
heavens
instantly
and the
fell,
earth with
and
a
the sharp
wave
sound
of
of the
his hand.
wind could be
The
heard
foundation
incessantly.
establishment cultivator
Break.
replied
The swordsman's
snappily.
expression changed
Do you
slightly.
think the parting
This
mirror
time his
of the
fingertips
Utopia
did not
faction
move,
is a
but the
cultivation
entire
method
sword
that
art
mortals
was
could practice.
raised.
Even
The
if
flying
that
sword
cultivation
itself
method
rushed
is placed in
towards the
front of
pagoda's
you,
shadow.
you may not be able to
Puff, puff.
understand or
A series of
comprehend
sounds
it all.
rang out.
Let's
All
go.
the shadows
Several
were pierced
people
by the
said as they
flying
collected
sword.
the storage
But the
bags,
meteor
flying
flying
sword's
sword's
tail was
and broken
gradually
magic weapons
disappearing.
scattered around them.
Then they
A
flew
cool
toward the
sound
nearest
rang out,
stronghold, and the pagoda
Utopia faction
finally landed
on
on
the
the
Xiaoyu
flying
continent,
sword.
the Huan
The
kingdom,
flying
the
sword,
Shi
which
kingdom,
seemed to have
and the
exhausted
Lian
all
kingdom
its
bordered
strength,
each other for
was
tens of
suddenly
thousands of
suppressed.
miles.
Like
In
a
such a
poisonous
vast,
snake's
weak
territory,
point being
there were
stuck.
fierce battles
Woo.
every day.
With a mournful cry,
sword cultivators,
the flying
and
sword
equipment
fell
cultivators
from midair.
suffered
Puff,
many
a small
casualties,
mouthful of blood was
but there were
spat
even
out from the
more
swordsman's
Taoist
mouth.
faction
This
disciples.
swordsman's mind was
especially
also
the Chi
damaged.
refining disciples.
Withdraw.
The
When they
foundation
encountered the strange
establishment
attacks of
cultivator
the sword
laughed
cultivators and
maliciously.
equipment
The
cultivators.
magic power
They were
in
not
his body
suitable
surged
for them
and
under his
died
control.
one after another.
The pagoda
Of
created
course,
a huge
after nearly a
whirlpool,
year of fighting,
sucking
there
in
were
the
also
falling
some
flying
disciples
sword
at the
and
peak
swordsman
of the
himself.
Chi refining
Both of them were
stage who
forcefully
broke through the
pulled
bottleneck
and
and
stepped
stepped into the foundation.
Senior brother
establishment
Xiang's
stage.
face was
These
pale.
new foundation
He knew that he had
establishment
met a
cultivators
powerful
were
enemy.
naturally sent
He suddenly
back
opened
to
his
their
mouth.
respective
And
sex.
an inch-long golden
However,
sword flew
it was
out,
said that people's
rushing into the
opportunities were
damaged
not the
flying
same.
sword just now.
Among these new
The flying
foundation
sword
establishment
faintly emitted a
cultivators,
faint
there were many
golden
who
light.
entered the
At the same
foundation
time,
establishment stage.
Senior brother
while
Xiang's
fighting.
figure also flew up.
They
With a
directed
wave of his
faced
hand,
the fierce
the flying sword fell into his
cultivators
hand.
and
Kill.
equipment cultivators.
Senior brother Xiang
Before
shouted.
they could really
His entire
enter the
body
foundation establishment
transformed
stage,
into a
the
sword's
flying
light,
swords
and
and
he became
magic
one with the
weapons would reach
sword,
them.
piercing
Before they could
towards
feel
the pagoda,
joy in their hearts,
playing a
they were
loud sound
killed.
rang out.
Even if their
This
senior
sword
brothers
precisely
or
pierced
uncle
the
masters
edge of the
wanted to
pagoda.
save them,
The tip of senior brother Xiang's
under such circumstances,
sword broke.
The disciples
and the
in charge
figure
of many
also
sects
trembled
in the meeting
violently.
hall of the Sky Patrol
However,
City.
a crack
Naturally,
also
had
appeared
to
on the
send
pagoda.
more manpower.
The
second
foundation
batch of
establishment,
disciples,
Cultivator,
including the
sucked
Imperial
in a
Thunder
breath
sect,
of cold
and a
air.
third batch
His
of
mind
disciples from
also
the
felt a
cultivation
slight
families
pain.
were also
He thought
urged
to
to
himself,
send to the battlefront.
sword cultivators
Meanwhile,
are indeed
Xiao
impressive.
Hua and the
But
others
that was
have
not
been
all.
flying forward
Senior
for
brother
another 10
Xiang's
days.
figure
They
flashed
only
in
saw
the
the
air
boundless
and paused
snowy
for a moment.
wilderness and
Then
mountain forest.
he turned into a sword
They didn't
and
see
flew
anything
into the
out of the
distance like a
ordinary,
meteor.
nor did they
The
see
foundation
any
establishment
sword
cultivators
cultivator was
attacking them.
enraged.
Xiao
With a
Hua,
sweep of his divine
whose cultivation
sense,
had
he
been
found that
steadily
apart from a
increasing,
dozen or so
unconsciously
sword nurturing
came to a
swordsmen who had been
realization.
killed.
Damn it!
Almost all the
Actually,
other
this
sword
relaxed
nurturing
isn't much
swordsmen
different
had
from
managed
going
to
into
escape from the
seclusion.
cultivator's hands.
Now it's only the
and were
first stage
flying
of the
towards
war.
the wind.
The nascent
mountain
soul
range.
cultivators and high-level sword
without waiting for the
cultivators
foundation
have not
building
come out.
cultivator.
Isn't
to give
this
the
war
order,
my world?
All the
Why should I be
cultivators
afraid of
channeled
them?
their
I
transcendence
can deal with them at will.
energy and used their
Should I also
flying
make a name for
techniques to
myself?
chase after the swordsman. However, before they could chase for more than 10
Chapter
li,
2240.
the distance between
Puff,
them
puff.
widened.
A
After
cultivator's
series of
flying
sounds,
technique,
the
still
brilliance
couldn't compare
receded,
to a
and Xiao Mao's lone
flying
whip
sword.
was revealed
Apart
in
from a
mid-air.
few middle-stage
Still,
foundation
Xiao Mao's
establishment
voice was
cultivators
stern,
with
and
higher
he seemed to be
cultivation.
terrified.
The rest
His
of the
body
cultivators had
swayed
already
fallen
slightly,
far behind,
as if his magic
Damn it,
power was
the
running
leading
out.
foundation
A hint of
establishment
redness
cultivator
flashed
flashed
across
across
his
his
face.
face.
His
He waved his
body
hand again,
slightly
and a
stopped,
magic whip
and he was just
landed
about
in
to
his
give the
hand.
order to stop.
He let out a soft
But at this
cry,
moment, he saw
and
the
a suctionman who was
force
flying
appeared on the whip.
desperately in front of
Sucking
him
in the
suddenly
surrounding
stopped.
spiritual
With a cheer,
energy.
he flew
Many
back.
small
This is
vortexes
bad.
appeared
The
on
foundation
the tip of the whip,
establishment
and lashed
cultivator
out
was
at the
shocked
swordsman.
and
You're just an
hurriedly
early
released his
stage
divine
foundation
sense.
establishment.
When he
brat.
understood what was
How can you
going
be my
on,
match?
he turned pale.
The swordsman
with fright
laughed
and was very disdainful. He pointed his finger.
This is a
and his
giant
flying sword
on the flying
suddenly
swords of the
enlarged.
many sword
It was like a
cultivators,
huge tree
apart from the
blocked the
swordsman.
whip. There was
Pop,
also
pop, pop.
a burly
The sound was
man
like
who was
tiny
twice as
firecrackers
tall.
as the
Xiao Mao's
swordsman.
whip struck
These
the burly
flying
men
sword,
were
but it was
almost naked.
useless.
On top
At
of their
this time,
heads,
Senior
brother
large
Gong
black
was killed
braid
by
that
the
extended
yellow
from their
heads
heads
to their waists.
The group of
These burly
Shuyan
men's
school
bodies were shiny
disciples
and
fled in
glossy.
panic like
Under the
birds
sunlight.
startled
They
by the
actually
twang
gave
of a bow.
off a strange
Xiao Mao was
glow.
naturally no
Run.
exception.
Although the
He held the whip
foundation
in his hand
establishment
and
cultivator
fled.
couldn't
You wanna
be
leave?
sure
Aren't
if
we letting
these
you off
giants
too
were powerful.
easily?
When he saw
Many
the
sword
swordsmen turn
cultivators
around
were
to face
delighted
them,
when they saw
he
the
naturally
situation.
knew that the
They
swordsmen
traveled
had a card up his
swiftly
sleeve.
on their flying
Why
swords
would he still fight them
and
head
were
on?
not afraid
With a
of
low
the
roar,
Shuyan school.
he hurriedly
disciples
ordered the
fleeing.
cultivators.
Each of them
to
roared
retreat.
and stepped
However,
onto their flying
it was
swords
easy to
give
chase after them, but
Luckily,
difficult to escape.
Xiao Mao wiped
Although
the
the
sweat
swordsman
off his
had the
forehead,
giant with him,
seeing that
his
the middle-aged
speed was
swordsman
only
was
slightly
the
slower
only
than
one
before.
chasing after
In
him.
just half a
He
meal's
felt
worth
lucky.
of time,
He waved
had
his
caught
whip
up with the
and
cultivators.
maintained the same distance from
the giant
swordsman.
behind Senior
In fact,
Brother
the
Xiang
distance
roared,
between
and
him
also
and the
flew up.
swordsman was
Moreover,
gradually
its speed
shortening.
wasn't
The
very
bird
slow
cultivator's
as
sharp
flew
gaze
towards the
swept
leading
across
foundation
and paused on
establishment
Xiao
cultivator.
Mao for a
Go.
moment.
Although the
before turning
foundation
to the
establishment
other
cultivator
Shuyan school
saw the
disciples.
giant,
It
seemed that he
swinging
was
its
searching
fist
for a
towards him.
cultivator
He didn't
who could
dare to be
escape
careless.
the swordsman's
With a
pursuit.
point of his finger,
Seeing the
the
distance
pagoda
between
flew out
him
again,
and the
and
bird
smashed
cultivator
towards the
shrinking.
giant.
Xiao Mao's
Facing the
eyes
might
turned
of the
slightly
pagoda
as he thought
and the
about how
force
to
and
escape.
suction of the pagoda.
At this time, the giant
caw.
wasn't afraid
The
at
bird
all.
cultivator
with a loud
seemed to have
bang,
realized
the
something
giant's
was wrong.
fists
Without
smashed
transforming.
on the pagoda. He
Moreover,
flew in the
it was at the
direction
spot that the
opposite
swordsman
of
had
Xiao Mao,
damaged
like
earlier.
an arrow.
With a crack,
A heaven-sent
widened.
opportunity
On the giant's fist,
right now,
a white mark
Xiao Mao
flashed.
was overjoyed.
Then, with a
He waited a
flash of
little
light,
longer.
the
before
mark
putting
gradually
the whip
disappeared
back into his storage bag.
The giant wasn't
He opened
injured
his
at all.
mouth and
No, you're not
spat
a
out
giant.
golden ring
Gradually,
the size of a
the
fist.
cultivator came
The
to a
golden ring
realization.
grew with the wind.
And
You're
in
a
an
weapon
instant,
cultivator.
it was several feet
Ha ha
long.
ha.
I am a weapon cultivator.
Xiao Mao used his
All of you
dermic
should
powers
quickly hand
and the
over your
universe
lives.
ring smashed.
The giant
towards
laughed
the swordsman.
loudly.
Oh,
as if his trick
the swordsman
had
was
succeeded.
slightly surprised.
His entire body,
but immediately
suddenly
his
shrank.
face showed great joy. So there's
When
a
he was the
magic
size
treasure.
of cultivator,
This sword is
he began
really
to
lucky.
chant an
As he spoke,
inexplicable
he pointed his finger,
incantation,
and the
the weapon
flying
cultivator's
sword under his
body
feet
began to
charged
emit
towards the
a
universe
bronze
ring.
light.
This
As the light
swordsman
spread
didn't
out.
believe that
The
an
weapon
early
cultivator's
foundation
body
building
began to
cultivator's
change.
magic weapon,
A weapon
could
that
have
looked like a
any
dagger
power.
axe appeared in
However,
midair.
just as the flying sword was about to pierce the shape of a earth ring,
At the tip of the
Shao
dagger
Mao
axe,
suddenly
a pair
activated
of eyes
the true
could be
essence
faintly
within
seen.
his meridians.
Whoosh!
Like a
The weapon
raging
cultivator
sea,
that had turned
his mana
into a weapon
surged
sway.
into the heaven
Like a
and
fish
earth ring.
swimming in water.
It
Middle
quickly
stage
peers
foundation
toward the foundation
seeing
establishment
Xiao
cultivator.
Mao's
On the dagger
powers
axe,
surge,
an endless
and the magic
murderous
treasure's
intent
power
was
increased
emitted.
like water.
It was as if the
swordsman
foundation
suddenly realized that the early
cultivator
foundation
couldn't escape,
establishment
even if he
cultivator
flew
he
into
had
the sky.
estimated had suddenly
What a pain.
become a mid-stage
The foundation
establishment cultivator
cried out.
He couldn't
in his
help
heart.
but be shocked.
He understood
However,
that the weapon
the
cultivators
swordsman
of the
was
Huan
only
country
shocked.
were the
He
strangers.
was a second grade
They used their
drawing
own flesh
sword
and
swordsman,
blood
similar to the
nourish the
peak
weapon.
of early
Not only did
foundation
they have the
establishment.
toughness of a weapon,
In terms
they
of
also
attack
had
power,
the alertness.
he wasn't
and
much
divine
weaker
sense of
than a
person.
mid-stage
Their
foundation
cultivation was
establishment
so
cultivator.
profound that
However,
they almost had
Xiao
the
Mao
power
still
of
exceeded
a
his
spiritual
expectations.
It wouldn't be easy for him to win
Just as the
with this
swordsman
pagoda.
activated
However,
his sword
the
technique
foundation
again, the
establishment
willow-like
cultivator
flying sword
scanned
flashed
with
with
divine
brilliance.
sense.
As if it
The
was
sword
about to
cultivator that
entangle
he
the
had
universe
just
ring.
defeated
Suddenly,
was already
the
guarding
universe
behind
ring
him.
produced
Even if he
a
wanted to
strong
escape,
suction force
he had no way
and
out.
spun towards
Let's
the
fight.
swordsman.
The
A
foundation
strong
establishment
confinement
cultivator
force was
opened
produced
his
from the
mouth
universe
and
ring,
spat out
firmly
a mouthful of
confining the
blood
swordsman
onto the pagoda.
sword origin.
Wong,
This is bad.
With a sorrowful
Just
cry,
as the swordsman had
the
this
bronze
thought,
color of the pagoda
universe
was
ring
smeared
flew
with a
faster
layer
than
of
the
bleak
swordsman
blood.
and
An
quickly
extremely
wrapped
strong
around the
suction
swordsman.
force.
81
was generated.
tiny blades of
With the
yin
foundation
and yang
establishment
were produced from the
cultivator's
universe
control,
ring.
The
Cutting
pagoda
the swordsman's
spiraled
body
towards the
into
dagger
tiny
axe.
pieces.
The dagger axe was
with a
even
wave of his
stranger.
hand.
It actually
Xiao
let
Mao
out a
put
hearty
away
laugh.
the swordsman's
As the
storage
whirlpool
bag,
of suction
flying
force
sword, and
spun
universe ring.
rapidly.
Once again,
It
he
counteracted
activated
his
his
suction
force
powers
pagoda
and
while
flew at the
also
speed
growing
of a
sharp
mid-stage
arc
foundation
at the end of the dagger
establishment
axe.
cultivator.
With a
Perhaps
ringing
even
sound,
faster than
the
that.
dagger axe
He quickly
and the
fled
pagoda
into the
collided.
distance.
The
The
seemingly
bird cultivator
huge pagoda
obviously
was
didn't have
actually
the time to
sent
care about
flying
Xiao
by the
Mao.
long,
By the time
thin
the other
dagger
sword
axe.
cultivators noticed
Moreover,
the abnormality,
the cracks that were
Xiao
already
Mao
there
had
just
already
now
escaped
widened,
without a trace,
almost piercing through
Jake,
half
the
of the
bird
pagoda.
cultivator,
If
was
there were no
incomparably
accidents,
furious.
the pagoda
He
would
raised his head to the
definitely
sky
be split
and
into
cried out
two
several
after
times.
another collision.
He knew
Give
that
me your
even if
life,
he chased
the dagger
after
axe
Xiao
didn't
Mao
give
now,
the foundation
he probably wouldn't be able to
establishment
find any
cultivator a
trace of
second
Xiao
chance.
Mao.
The
Xiao
dagger
Mao
axe
was
followed
so
the
cunning.
direction of the
How
pagoda
could he fly in a straight
and
line?
suddenly,
Just as the
extended
bird
again.
cultivator had
Its
thought,
sharp head
Xiao
was like
Mao
a
changed
long
his
sword,
direction several
piercing
times
towards the
before
foundation
finally
establishment
stopping at the
cultivator,
edge
whose
of a frozen
primordial
river.
spirit had been
His body
greatly
paused in
damaged.
midair for
The
a
foundation
moment before he
establishment
abruptly
cultivator
charged
naturally
into the
had to
frozen
defend.
river.
He
His
formed a
cultivation
spell, level
and a
rapidly
semicircular
dropped,
shield
dropping to
appeared
the
in
peak
midair
of the early
blocking the
stage of
dagger
foundation
axe.
establishment.
But it was only for an
Sigh.
instant. Xiao Mao
With a
rushed
cracking
into the
sound,
glacier. The
his
shield
body
was shattered by
flashed
the
with
dagger
brilliance,
axe,
and the
the
dagger
glacier
axe
was
approached
bone-chilling.
again.
Just
Although
as the
it was
foundation
separated by
establishment
brilliance,
cultivator was about to
Xiao
take out his
Mao
weapon again,
could still
he
feel
heard
the
the sound of a
within.
flying sword.
However, to
piercing
him,
through the air
this was a
behind
piece of
him.
cake.
He didn't need to release his spiritual
He
will
sighed
to
in his
know
heart
that
and
Senior
thought to
Xiang
himself,
was about to kill him.
If not for
Thus,
Big Brother
he channeled
Zhao's
his
secret
mana
technique that
and
allowed
his
me
body
to activate
suddenly
my
descended,
meridians and raise
trying to
my
avoid the
dermic powers
attack
by
of
the
the
small
dagger
realm
axe
and
I
the
really
flying
would have
sword.
died in
However,
the hands of a sword
the flying
cultivator
sword was
today.
fast
Unfortunately,
and accurate.
After
And the
activating
dagger
my
axe
dermic
was the
powers,
weapon
my
cultivator's
meridians
body.
are
How could he
very
block its
uncomfortable.
flying speed?
If not
Just
for
as he
several
descended a
hours
few
of cultivation,
feet, the
it would
flying
be
sword
difficult
and dagger
to
axe had
eliminate
already
the
changed
after
direction.
effects.
One from
However,
the front,
this
and
technique
one from the back
is really
they
too
were about
miraculous.
to pierce his body.
It actually
My
allowed
life
me
is
to
over.
advance by
Only
leaps
now
and
did the
bounds
foundation
all the way
establishment
to the
cultivator
peak of
realize
early
the
foundation
true
establishment.
power of a
It's
sword
only a matter of
cultivator
time before
and a
I
weapon
reach the
cultivator.
mid-stage.
He
of
sighed in his
foundation
heart and closed
establishment.
his eyes,
I wonder what
waiting
Big
for
Brother
death.
Zhao's cultivation
Don't you
level is
dare
now.
hurt the
Will
disciples
he return
of the
for this
Utopia
sword
faction.
cultivator battle?
With a roar,
Xiao Mao thought for
a
a
human
moment
figure
and
descended
closed his
from the
eyes
sky.
again. He activated a simple dragonization art to
This
eliminate
cultivator
the
had snow
discomfort
white
in
hair,
his meridians,
a blood-red
and what
robe,
about Xiao
and
Hua?
cold eyes.
Although he
without
wasn't
a
on the
trace
battlefield
emotion.
of sword
The only thing that
cultivators,
came out of his mouth
he was still on
to
his way
follow
there.
his heart.
On the thunder
Following
ship,
the roar,
Xiao Hua was still
2-3
quite
foot
carefree.
long.
Yellow
Right now,
whips
he was lacking
split
time.
into two.
If
and
there wasn't
attacked
this
the dagger
battle
axe,
between
and
sword
the swordsman
cultivators and
respectively,
Taoist sects,
he would
pointless
rather go
Dao sect.
into seclusion.
How long can you bluff
He was
like
clear
clear in his heart.
The weapon
his
cultivator
primordial spirit
didn't care at
was
all
now
and
very
sneered
strong.
disdainfully.
If he went into
He opened his
seclusion
mouth
for 100
and
years,
spat out a
he should
faint
definitely
golden
be able to
light,
lower
blocking the whip
himself
shadows.
compared to others
This
who went
weapon
into
cultivator
seclusion
could
for
actually
1,000
spit
years.
out golden
Taoist
chi.
sex,
The
Buddhist
golden
sex,
chi turned
soul
into
cultivation,
and
other
floated in the
techniques
air.
could all improve
However,
one by
when the
one.
whip shadow,
His future
which
was
looked no
definitely
different from a
limitless.
real magic treasure,
Unfortunately,
hit the gold
he didn't have a
chi.
life of leisure
It was a
to
pung
cultivate.
sound similar
Apart
to
from the
that of
time when
gong,
he was in
and
the
the gold
early
chi
chi
was
refinement
immediately
realm at
shattered.
Songhua Ming.
The whip shadows
He could
didn't
still be
stop
considered
and
to have
directly hit
cultivated
the
in
weapon
peace.
cultivator's
The
shoulder.
rest of his time
with a
was
loud
spent
bang,
roaming around,
a cluster of
gaining
sparks
experience
splashed out from the
everywhere.
equipment
He
cultivator's
simply didn't have a
shoulder.
chance to take
Then,
a breather.
a burst of
Sigh,
golden
after this
brilliance
battle,
flourished.
I must go into
that
seclusion.
golden brilliance
radiance
Xiaohua
quickly
sat
spread
cross-legged.
all over the
He was
Dagorak's
comprehending
body,
the techniques
and a
one by
layer of
one.
cracks as thin
All kinds of
as spider
comprehension
silk
were
spread out
unceasing,
along with the brilliance,
causing him to
at the
scratch
same
his
time.
ears.
The brilliance
cheeks
gradually
joy.
disappeared.
When he reached
The
the
weapon
peak of his
cultivator
cultivation,
could no
he
longer
couldn't help
maintain
but
the
sigh
Dagorak's
inwardly.
form.
Why don't
and
I use
gradually
Corpse Escape?
reverted to his
Immediately
human form.
play dead.
At this
when I
time,
reached the front,
there was clearly
hide in
some
a place to
fear
cultivate
in the weapon
in seclusion.
cultivator's eyes.
Wait until
The
after
arrogance
the
from
battle
before
to appear.
had long
Xiaohua
disappeared.
immediately
The weapon
felt that
cultivator
something
was
was wrong.
beaten back
He raised
to
his
original
eyes
form by
and
the
looked
whip,
at the
but
forward
the sword
chi
cultivator
refinement
didn't have it
disciples in the
easy
quiet room.
either.
Although
The
they
sword
were barely
cultivator saw that the
cultivating with
whip
their
shadows
eyes
hadn't
closed.
reached him yet.
Xiaohua
But the
could tell with the
spiritual
slight
power
sweep of
on
his
divine
whip
shadows
sense
that these four
as well as the
people's
strong
thoughts were
force
fluctuating.
contained in the wind.
The flow of their
Attacked
true
first.
chi was sometimes
He couldn't help but
fast
turn pale
and
with
sometimes
fright.
slow.
He didn't have the
It was far
tyrannical
from its usual
defensive
power of a weapon
Naturally,
cultivator.
he
and
also
didn't
knew
dare
that there
to
were
take it
many
head-on.
distracting thoughts in their minds.
They were very worried
He
about
formed a
their
sword
own
seal in his
prospects.
hand, and the flying sword stabbed horizontally at the whip shadows.
Chapter 22,
Almost at the same
41.
time as the weapon
Forget
cultivator
it.
was hit,
Xiaohua
there was a
killed
killed
the
the
sound.
idea of
The
escaping.
flying sword was hit
Since I'm
by
a
the whip
disciple of the
shadows.
Imperial Thunder
Broken
sect,
light
I have to do
flashed
my
on the flying
best
sword
and let
and
nature
fine
take
cracks
its course.
suddenly appear.
Moreover, I can
Who?
improve
The
my
sword
cultivation
cultivator's
by fighting.
flying sword
Although I
was
only
damaged,
cultivate on the Thunderbolt,
and his primordial
I can
spirit
still
was
improve.
also
right?
seriously
In just a few
injured.
months,
This guy
all
was
kinds of
already
cultivation
injured
have
before.
improved, but this
It's
time
just
it was
not as
even more
obvious
serious.
as in the myriad
He spat out a
Thunder
mouthful
Valley.
of blood and waved his
Kind
hand.
of with my fingers,
The flying sword
I should
fell
reach
into his
the
hand.
northernmost
He
part
looked
of the
at it with
country
harshness
in 10 days.
but he saw that the
Just as
incomparably
Xiaohua
hard
was having
flying
some free
sword
time
was
to
now
think.
full of
The
cracks.
Thunderbolt
If
shook
it was hit
violently,
again, it would
came to a
definitely
stop.
shatter into
Oh,
pieces. Could it be that we've arrived? Xiaohua was slightly surprised. Inside the quiet room of the Thunderbolt,
Chapter
there was a
22,
restriction that
47.
blocked divine
Let's go.
sense. The sword
Xiaohua
cultivator
didn't know what was
glanced
happening
over
outside,
and spat a
so he only
mouthful
opened his
of
eyes
sword energy
slightly.
into his flying
We've
sword.
arrived.
The sword
An aura
cultivator's
refining
spirit
disciple
followed
opposite
the sword,
him couldn't
and he
help
wanted to
but
escape.
blurt out.
Don't you
As
think
he
it's
said
too
this,
late to
the
leave
disciple's
now?
face
The
turned
white-haired
slightly
cultivator,
pale,
but then there was a
coldly.
kind of blush.
He raised his
in the
hand, and a
whiteness,
long
as if a kind of
nine-section
relief,
bamboo,
whip
kind of part that
appeared
had
out
been
of
hanging
thin
for a
air.
long time.
The 9-section
finally
whip
settled
was
down.
pale gold in
However,
color.
the
Starting
Thunderbolt
from the
was
handle,
still for a long
each
time,
section
and
was
no
shorter
disciple
than
came
the
to greet
previous
them.
one.
Nor did
Between
they hear the
each
voice
section
of
of
the
the
golden
bamboo,
core
there were
cultivator.
complicated
Could it be that there's
talismans
something else?
flashing.
Xiaohua's
Even the bamboo
mind
sections were
turned
faintly
slightly,
flowing,
and he closed
with
his eyes to
mysterious
cultivate.
talismans. His time
Great.
was
After
extremely
the white-haired
precious.
cultivator
and
finished
since this
speaking,
matter had
he
nothing
dragged
to do
the
with
bamboo
him,
whip
of course he
without
had to
hesitation.
cultivate. A whip shadow
Just as he closed his
was born
eyes,
from the bamboo whip.
a burst of
It was like a
hurried
coquettish
footsteps came.
golden dragon.
When they arrived outside
flashing
their
with
quiet
intense
room,
light,
they stopped again.
A sharp hurricane
Cui Hongshan
seemed to
poked
tear
his
the
head in
void
and
apart
shouted,
as
Xiaohua,
it
come
slashed
out.
towards the
What?
sword cultivator.
Xiaohua glanced at
The
him
sword cultivator's
unhappily.
flying speed
Have we
was
arrived?
extremely
Why
fast.
didn't the sword
In
cultivator
a moment,
attack?
he had already
We
flown
haven't
a few
arrived
feet.
yet.
Cui
However,
Hongshan,
the whip shadow was
unhappily,
even faster.
Do you want to
and
die like
struck
this?
the sword cultivator
We haven't
like
arrived
lightning.
yet. Why are you
Ka-cha-cha.
calling me? The sword cultivator's
Xiaohua
body
ignored him.
flashed a few
This is the
times
captain's
before
token
it was
of my
annihilated.
Imperial
The
Thunder
flying
sect.
sword under
Cui
the sword
Hongshan
cultivator's
said
feet
nothing,
was smashed
clapped
into
his
pieces,
hand,
and
the
took out a
sword
token.
cultivator's body
he held it in front of
was
his
also
eyes,
smashed
and
into
said
several
seriously,
pieces.
I've been
Senior
ordered to
Lizone bowed.
mobilize people.
The Foundation
Xiaohua,
establishment cultivator,
you're a disciple
who
of
had
the
closed his
Imperial Thunder
eyes
sect,
and waited for death,
so you must
did not
obey
see
this
it coming.
order. When he
Quickly
heard the
come out with
sound
me.
of weapons colliding,
Yes.
he opened his
Xiaohua
eyes
glanced at the
and
token.
saw the
In addition to the
white-haired
word
cultivator.
one, there was
He was
also
extremely
a lightning,
surprised and said,
which was exactly the same
Why are you here?
as the symbol
This
on his
white-haired
Taoist robe.
cultivator was
Although he
actually
did not
Li
know whether the
Zongbao,
token was real
a disciple
or
of the
fake,
utmost happiness
since it was announced on a
faction
lightning
who
bolt.
practiced
It could not
the
be
leeching
fake.
treasure mirror.
He could only reply
Li
lazily and stand
Zongbao's
up.
gaze
Seeing
swept over the
Xiaohua
cultivator
in such a
who was
state,
about to cry
Cui
from joy.
Hongshan
He
almost
only
wanted to kick
responded and
Xiaohua.
dragged the bamboo
During these
whip
few
again.
months,
He
other than
activated his
cultivating,
mana
he
and
was still
waved it.
thinking about how
Like
to protect
waves,
himself.
the whip
Xiaohua
smashed
and
towards the
DUI
weapon
Chimney.
cultivator.
He didn't
who was
expect
also
that Zhun Yin
fleeing
would
panic.
actually come looking for
Rumble
him when the
The
Thunderbolt
whip
stopped.
shadow fell.
It was said
And
that
there was
an
the
order
sound
came
of
from the
wind
meeting hall
and
of the Sky
thunder.
Patrol City.
The weapon
Asking
cultivator's
the Imperial
expression
Thunder sect to
changed
send out
greatly.
10 people. As he spat
These
out
10
golden
people were to
gas,
fly
he tried
in
his best to
extremely
block the
fast
whip
speed
shadow.
to the foul
At the same
Crow
time,
Mountain
his body
to
glowed.
await orders.
Not only did his
The first thing that
speed
came to
suddenly
Jinyan's mind
increase,
was
but the
Chui
magic
Hongshin.
weapon form of
This
his
was the
long
perfect
spear
opportunity
also
to
rapidly
fulfill
appeared.
Chui
Bang,
Hongshin's
bang, bang,
wish.
bang.
Chui
In the blink of
Hongshin
an
looked
eye,
at the captain's
the
token
overwhelming
given by
number
Zhang
of
Yin
whip
in front of him
shadows and couldn't believe
smashed
his eyes.
onto the artifact.
He didn't give
cultivator's
Zhang Yin
body.
a single
Every
spirit
whip
stone.
shadow would make
So
a
how
loud
could Jin Yin
sound,
give such a
and
good thing
after
to him?
every loud
However,
sound,
The only hesitated for a moment and immediately took the captain's token. In the end, under the weapon cultivator, he went to the thunderbolt of the DUI into the ground by the whip shadow. DUI Chimen. Boom. DUI Chimen. The deep pit and a few other junior cultivator had fallen and seemed under Zheng Yan's guidance as casually picked golden lights. A few foundation establishment. Furthermore, and she refined the golden lights were mixed with the last one was Xiaohua. After the sound was heard, Xiaohua lazily came to the quiet pit again with a puzzled expression. There was only a long spear lying at the bottom of the pit, and there were traces of blood and minced meat around it. The tool cultivator had actually been smashed to pieces by Li Zhongbao's bamboo whip. The Foundation establishment cultivator from the Utopia faction sucked in a breath of cold air. Of course, he had heard of Li Zhongbao's reputation, but Li Zhongbao had never made a move in a fight between fellow faction members. He had never imagined that Li Zhongbao would be so powerful now. Although his cultivation level was only at the peak of the middle Foundation establishment stage, his strength was close to the peak of the late Foundation establishment stage. Isn't this immortal piercing whip a little too powerful? The Foundation establishment cultivator was secretly jealous. What are you waiting for? Li Zhongbao glared at the Foundation establishment cultivator, but his figure did not stop. He flew up and pounced towards the equipment cultivator on the other side. His pure white hair fluttered in the air and scattered mercilessly. Yes, I understand. The Foundation establishment cultivator's heart trembled. He moved his body and hurriedly went to help the other disciples. Li Zhongbao was as ferocious as a tiger in a flock of sheep. Although the equipment cultivator's defense was incomparably powerful, and the sword cultivator's attack was also unparalleled, under his merciless, immortal piercing whip, there was almost no one who could withstand more than 3 moves. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, not only did he reverse the previous decline of the Taoist faction, but he also killed more than 10 equipment cultivators and sword cultivators. The remaining equipment cultivators saw that things were not going well. With a whistle, they fled in all directions under the lead of the sword cultivator. Seeing the sword cultivators flee, Li Zhongbao narrowed his eyes, and a faint red light flashed across his face. Immediately after, the sleeves of his Taoist robe suddenly swelled up. The immortal piercing whip in his hand swung in midair and drew a semicircle. More than 10 whip shadows flew out and chased after the sword cultivators in all directions. Li Zhongbao actually wanted to kill all these sword cultivators. Bang, bang, bang. A series of sounds could be heard. The immortal piercing whip had caught up with the sword cultivators, but after all, they were too far away. Except for one sword cultivator who was killed by the whip shadows in midair, the rest of the sword cultivators and equipment cultivators all used their flying swords to block the whip shadows. They staggered in the air for a while, and with a faint flash of light on their bodies, they continued to flee. You guys got lucky. At this time, the red light on Li Zhongbao's face receded and was replaced by a slightly pale face. With a wave of his hand, he kept the immortal piercing whip in his storage bag. With a clap of his hand, he took out a pill and popped it into his mouth. The immortal piercing whip was a powerful magic weapon. Li Zhongbao had used it to kill so many sword cultivators and equipment cultivators, but the magic power in his body was showing signs of drying up. Thank you, Senior Brother Li. Many cultivators of the Utopia faction who had escaped with their lives were overjoyed. They stepped forward and bowed to pay their respects. Li Zhongbao looked at these disciples indifferently and ordered, I was just passing by this place. I received your message, Charm, and rushed over. All of you, clean up this place and quickly gather at the nearest stronghold. Yes, we understand. When the disciples heard that Li Zhongbao wanted them to clean up the mess, they were overjoyed and smiled apologetically. Senior Brother Li, where are you going? Why are there so many storage bags of the sword cultivators and equipment cultivators left behind? Do you want to take a look? I'm under orders to go to the Sky Patrol City. Li Zhongbao's tone was still indifferent. What use do we have for these sword cultivators and equipment cultivators? You can take them all. After that, he flew up into the sky and headed in the direction of the Sky Patrol City. TSK, TSK.
Looking at Li Zongbao flying away without stopping, the Foundation establishment cultivator who had previously held the pagoda said enviously, "Senior brother Li Zongbao is indeed a famous cultivator in the three kingdoms of cultivation. How many years has it been since you built your foundation? Now, you have already cultivated to the peak of the middle stage of foundation establishment. I'm afraid you can break through the late stage of foundation establishment at any time. Even the golden core is in sight. Alas, we can't compare with senior brother Li Zongbao." Another cultivator who was also in the middle stage of foundation establishment side. Senior brother Li is a young talent. He has been famous since he was young. His talent is rare in the entire Xiaoyu continent. He is martial uncle Hung Ming's favorite disciple. Now, with the Utopia faction's famous magic weapon, his strength is close to the peak of the late stage of foundation establishment. Exactly. I'm afraid martial uncle Li Zongbao is the strongest cultivator below the golden core. And she refining disciple whispered with admiration. Yes, it should be about the same. The foundation establishment cultivator who held the pagoda nodded. These weapon cultivators and sword cultivators are extremely powerful in both defense and attack. However, they are no match for senior brother Li. This is basically the strength of a golden core cultivator. If senior brother Li Zongbao is the strongest cultivator below the golden core, he definitely deserves it. I'm afraid no other foundation establishment cultivator in the entire three kingdoms of cultivation can match him. But another Qi refining disciple whispered, "Isn't martial uncle Li very young? Why does he have a head full of white hair?" A foundation establishment cultivator hesitated and said, "I've heard from my teacher that senior brother Li once led a team to the Taixing sect to participate in the feather deity meet. I don't know what happened, but his hair turned white overnight. Since that day, his cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds, far surpassing his previous cultivation speed. No one in the Utopia faction can match him. Martial Uncle Li seems disdainful to be with us." The Qi refining disciple asked again. The foundation establishment cultivator glared at him and said coldly, "What do you know? I've heard that senior brother Li Zongbao seems to be practicing the famous parting mirror of the Utopia faction. It has a heart like iron, emotions like steel, and Tao like the heavens. My goodness, it's so powerful. Tao like the heavens?" The Qi refining disciple was speechless again. Of course, the heavenly Tao is ruthless. If you want to have a profound cultivation, you naturally have to cut off your emotions in order to be close to the heavenly Tao. The parting mirror of the Utopia faction is known to be the cultivation method closest to the heavenly Tao. Then in the end, won't he lose his emotions? Then, is he still human? Of course not. He's a celestial who can destroy the heavens and earth with a wave of his hand. The foundation establishment cultivator replied, snappily, "Do you think the parting mirror of the Utopia faction is a cultivation method that mortals can practice? Even if that cultivation method is placed in front of you, you may not be able to understand or comprehend it at all. Let's go," several people said as they collected the storage bags, flying swords, and broken magic weapons scattered around them. Then they flew toward the nearest stronghold of the Utopia faction. On the Xiaoyu continent, the Huan Kingdom, the Shi Kingdom, and the Lian Kingdom bordered each other for tens of thousands of miles. In such a vast territory, there were fierce battles every day. Although there were many casualties among sword cultivators and weapon cultivators, there were even more Taoist faction disciples, especially those Qi refining disciples. When they encountered the strange attacks of sword cultivators and weapon cultivators, they were not suitable for them and died one after another. Of course, after nearly a year of fighting, there were also some disciples at the peak of the Qi refining stage who broke through the bottleneck and set foot on the foundation establishment stage. These new foundation establishment cultivators were naturally sent back to their respective sects. However, it was said that people's opportunities were not the same. Among these new foundation establishment cultivators, many of them had reached the foundation establishment stage while fighting. They were directly faced with fierce sword cultivators and weapon cultivators. Before they could really reach the foundation establishment stage, the flying swords and magic weapons would reach them. Before they could feel joy in their hearts, they were killed. Even if their senior brothers or uncle masters wanted to save them, it was too late. Under such circumstances, the disciples in charge of many sects in the meeting hall of the Sky Patrol City naturally had to send more manpower. The second batch of disciples, including the Imperial Thunder Sect, and the third batch of disciples from the Cultivation families were also urged to send to the battlefront. Moreover, Xiaohua and the others flew forward for more than 10 days. They only saw the vast, snowy wilderness and mountains everywhere. They did not see any abnormalities, nor did they see any sword cultivators attacking them. Xiaohua, whose cultivation had been steadily improving, unconsciously came to a realization. Damn it, actually this easy is not much different from cultivating in seclusion. Now it's only the first stage of the war. The nascent soul stage cultivators and high-level sword cultivators have not come out. Isn't this war my world? Why should I be afraid of them? I can deal with them at will. Should I also make a name for myself? Chapter 2248. At this moment, a divine sense swept over from behind Xiaohua. Once discovered, the divine sense immediately locked onto them. This sword cultivator actually attacked from behind me? Xiaohua was astonished and hurriedly released his Buddhist perception. When he saw clearly, a pensive expression flashed across his face. Quick, Xiaohua, quickly fly to the foothills in front. Xiaohua heard Dui Qiming's call. We'll meet the enemy there. Yes, Xiaohua replied, but he wasn't in a hurry to fly forward. I heard eldest senior brother say that your flying speed is very fast. Why are you so slow? Seeing that Xiaohua wasn't flying fast, Cui Hongshan couldn't help but feel anxious. However, before Xiaohua could fly to the foothills, a small brown dot faintly appeared in the distant sky. When it flew into the range of everyone's divine sense, everyone's faces unconsciously relaxed. As it turned out, it was actually a small flowing cloud flying ship. It was precisely the Seven Skills Sect disciples. Since it was a Tao sect disciple, no matter which sect he was from, the Imperial Thunder Sect disciples didn't need to be afraid. Thus, Cui Hongshan waved his hand, and Xiaohua and the other disciples stayed where they were. He and Zhenming flew into the air to meet them. The flying magic tool was indeed fast. In the time it took to brew a cup of tea, they arrived in front of them. When the flowing cloud flying ship stopped, a mid-foundation establishment old man led two early foundation establishment middle-aged men down from the flying ship. His gaze swept across Cui Hongshan, then looked at the people hiding at the foothills. He cupped his hands and said, "This old man was wondering who it was. So it's fellow Taoists from the Imperial Thunder Sect. Nice to meet you." Although this old man came, he didn't take the initiative to announce his name. It was obvious that he disdained Cui Hongshan and Zhen Minghui's cultivation. Cui Hongshan didn't get angry and cupped his hands in greeting. This one is Cui Hongshan, a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect's Thunder Palace. I'm the captain of the Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. This is my first team's vice captain, Zhen Minghui. May I know what fellow Taoists from the Seven Skills Sect are here for? Oh, the Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. The old man's face unconsciously revealed a trace of surprise. An early Foundation establishment disciple actually dares to lead the Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. A dark-skinned, middle-aged man didn't even try to hide his ridicule and actually shouted out, "Now that I've received the heavy responsibility of being a teacher, I dare not refuse this heavy responsibility just because my cultivation is low. I will do my best to complete the task entrusted to me by my teacher." Cui Hongshan replied in a manner that was neither haughty nor humble. "Junior brother Ho, how can you be so rude?" The old man glanced sideways at the young cultivator and whispered, "Every sect has their own difficulties. How can the Imperial Thunder Sect compare to our Seven Skills Sect? Without a high-level cultivator, It's normal for an early-stage Foundation establishment cultivator to be the captain of the first squad. Damn it! Hidden at the foot of the mountain, Xiao Hua was displeased. He could belittle Cui Hongshan at will, but Cui Hongshan was, after all, a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect's myriad Thunder Valley. Xiao Hua didn't want others to look down on him. Although this middle Foundation establishment old man didn't directly say anything about Cui Hongshan, he actually belittled the entire Imperial Thunder sect. His tone was even more unbearable than that middle-aged cultivator's. Yes, I understand. The middle-aged cultivator hastily lowered his head and took half a step back. I was only thinking about the 7 Possibilities sect. I didn't think about the Imperial Thunder sect. The old man waved his hand, then turned to Cui Hongshan and said, I'm Han Bing from the 7 Possibilities sect. I'm the captain of the 132nd squad of the 7 Possibilities sect. I'm very happy to see Captain Cui. May I know why Captain Cui is here? Cui Hongshan's thoughts were different from Xiao Hua's. After all, the other party was a middle Foundation establishment cultivator. He was a small realm lower than the other party, so there was nothing much to say. After thinking for a moment, he smiled apologetically and said, I've received orders from my master to head to Foul Crow Mountain for some business. May I know why Captain Han is here? Oh, you're going to Foul Crow Mountain? Han Bing was stunned, then asked, You've been waiting for a message from Foul Crow Mountain. Cui Hongshan was even more stunned, then nodded and said, That's right. Our Imperial Thunder sect was heading to Sky Patrol City, but we received a message halfway. That's why our master hurriedly dispatched our first squad. Oh, so that's how the first squad came to be. Han Bing came to a realization and said with a smile, You don't have to go to Foul Crow Mountain. The cultivators of your Imperial Thunder sect's first squad are too weak. They won't be of any use. Furthermore, Foul Crow Mountain isn't a big deal. We're heading there anyway. Cui Hongshan was stunned. He didn't expect Han Bing to say that. Besides, we're taking the Flowing Cloud flying ship, which is several times faster than you. By the time your Imperial Thunder sect's first squad reaches Foul Crow Mountain, the cucumber will be cold. What are you waiting for? The middle-aged cultivator who had been silent all this while said with a smile. He was also belittling the Imperial Thunder sect. Furthermore, this cultivator looked at the Flowing Cloud flying ship behind him and seemed to be talking to himself. Besides, our 7 skills sect's Flowing Cloud flying ship isn't refined well. It can only seat 10 people, no more. When I return, I'll inform the sect of this shortcoming. We must improve it. Cui Hongshan's face turned a little pale. The Imperial Thunder sect's thunder ship was famous in the Dawn Rain continent, but the problem was that they didn't have a small thunder ship. Even if there was a thunder ship, early Foundation establishment cultivators couldn't control it. Besides, 7 Skills sect was a refining sect. The Imperial Thunder sect couldn't compare. Seeing that Cui Hongshan's expression wasn't right, Han Bing was in an extremely good mood. He cupped his hands and said, Captain Cui, this old man will leave first. After all, there's a reason for Foul Crow Mountain to send a message. You'd better return home and hurry to Sky Patrol City. There are more important matters there. Farewell. After saying that, he turned and flew onto the Flowing Cloud flying ship without waiting for Cui Hongshan's reply. The other 2 middle-aged Foundation establishment cultivators didn't even report their names to the Imperial Thunder sect and left just like that. Captain Cui, after the 7 Skills sect's Flowing Cloud flying ship flew away, Zhen Minghui looked hesitant. He frowned and stared at the distant horizon. The Flowing Cloud flying ship had already disappeared into the vast snowfield. He asked, Are we still going to Foul Crow Mountain? Why not? Cui Hongshan's eyes flashed with a strange light as he asked. The 7 Skills sect's disciples have a higher cultivation than us. Besides, they have flying Dharma artifacts, so they can leave quickly. By the time we get there, the matter will be over. Why should we go? Zhen Minghui stammered. Didn't senior brother Jin Yun say that there's no big deal in Foul Crow Mountain? They just felt that our Imperial Thunder sect's disciples' flying speed is fast, so they let us go. Vice Captain Zhen. Cui Hongshan laughed. You're the vice captain of the Imperial Thunder Sect's first team and a disciple of the sect. How can a 7 skills sect's mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator decide where our first team goes? Even if we're late, we'll still have to go. Besides, isn't it better for the 7 skills sect's disciples to lead the way for us? Yes, I understand. Zhen Minghui looked ashamed. It was easy for him to submit to someone with a higher cultivation to follow Han Bing's orders without hesitation. It was only when Cui Hongshan spoke that he understood. It was also at this moment that he finally called himself a subordinate for the first time. Then I'll lead the way, Zhen Minghui said respectfully to Cui Hongshan and was about to fly in front like before. However, Cui Hongshan laughed and said, "No need. Since the 7 skills sect disciples are in front of us, why should we be afraid of sword cultivators? We could just go straight ahead." "Yes, I understand." Zhen Minghui nodded and called out Xiao Hua and the rest. The 10 of them continued forward. Of course, for safety's sake, Zhen Minghui continued to fly in front. After flying for another 10 days, a hint of green could be seen in the vast snowy plains. From time to time, some tender green could be seen in the pure white veins. It was actually some spiritual trees. There were even some sprouts that were like new shoots emerging from the snow. Chicken Crow Mountain is in front. On this day, when they flew to a glacier, Cui Hongshan pointed to a strange mountain peak in the distance and said, "We'll reach it in half a day. Let's rest for a while." "Yes." Zhen Minghui was the first to respond. After 10 days, they had already formed a tacit understanding. Zhen Minghui stopped and used his divine sense to scan the surroundings. His gaze landed on a depression in the glacier. He saw that the glacier was very wide. It was probably several hundred feet wide. The sparkling and translucent ice layer covered the entire glacier. Just a few li in front of them, the water flowing down the slope also froze into ice. The rhythm of the river water, jumping and splashing, was vividly frozen. It really had a kind of beauty that combined movement and stillness. Even if one used the naked eye to see through the layer of ice, one could still faintly see the rapidly flowing waves. One could even hear the hua-hua sound in one's ears. Stepping on the solid layer of ice, who would have thought that there was a roaring world below? "Captain Cui, can you take out the cold wind? We'll go over and rest for a while. We'll take some medicinal pills and adjust our breathing for a while." Zhen Minghui asked softly. "Okay, please lead the way, Senior Marshal Brother Minghui." Cui Hongshan never refuted Zhen Minghui's opinions and nodded very gently. After Dui Qimeng and the rest flew over the glacier with Su Qing, Dui Ling landed on the ice layer of the glacier. She looked down curiously at the solid ice under her feet and shouted happily, "Xiaohua, quickly come and take a look. Have you seen such thick ice before? There's water under the ice, and the water flow is very rapid." During these dozens of days, Dui Ling and Xiao Hua flew at the back. Dui Ling would nag at Xiao Hua whenever she had nothing to do. He even treated Xiao Hua's entry into the Imperial Thunder Sect as if he had single-handedly arranged it. It was as if he hadn't discovered Xiao Hua that day, Xiao Hua would have been buried. Moreover, this was Dui Ling's first time coming to this world of ice and snow. Naturally, she was very happy and couldn't help but call out to Xiao Hua. "Little girl." Xiao Hua's figure was still on the other side of the glacier. She lazily replied, "What's the difference between looking and not looking? If you look, it's still flowing. If you don't look, it's still flowing. What's the difference between this and the flowing water of the Imperial Thunder Sect? Why are you so boring?" How could Dui Ling understand the profoundness in her words? She pouted, stomped her feet, and bent her body down. Her eyes were almost touching the ice layer. "Io, there's a big fish inside." "And a crab?" "No, this." As she spoke, Dui Ling actually looked a little flustered and almost screamed. Following Dui Ling's scream, her figure immediately flew into the air, trying to escape. Just as her figure left the ice layer, there was a loud pong sound. The thick layer of ice that was as solid as a boulder suddenly burst open. Large chunks of ice were overturned, and ice fragments rushed into the air. A disc-shaped figure emitting a green brilliance rushed out from the ice layer. Two balls of light whizzed towards Dui Ling's body. Io! Long before Dui Ling screamed, Xiaohua had already released her spiritual sense. She saw a crab with green light waving its large pincers rushing out from the ice layer. Dui Ling was probably the one who cried out in surprise. Seeing that the crab's strength was only around the Qi refinement realm, Xiaohua didn't care. She didn't move and only watched indifferently with her arms crossed. Chapter 2249. Junior Sister Dui, don't panic. Xiaohua didn't care, but someone else did. Bai Su Gu, who had just flown over the ice layer, let out a low shout. He slapped his storage pouch, and a foot-long fiery red stick flew out. Go! Bai Su Gu urged his transcendence energy, and a circle of flames quickly lingered around the stick. It was Bai Su Gu's fire-congealing pillar. Although Bai Su Gu's fire-congealing pillar was fast, it still couldn't compare to the green crab. Dui Ling had just flown a few feet when the green crab's claws had already caught up to her figure. With a kacha sound, the claws cut towards Dui Ling's waist like lightning. Although Dui Ling was in the Qi refinement realm and didn't have much experience, he still had a natural reaction. With a wave of his hand, many fireball talismans, lightning talismans, and other talismans were scattered. With a rumble and kachacha sound, they all hit the crab's body. However, these fireballs and lightning only blocked the crab's claws, slightly delaying the attack. The green brilliance on the crab's hard shell flashed, and all the attacks were ineffective. Not a single hair on the crab was harmed. Seeing the crab's claws only slightly delayed and were about to cut at her slender waist, Dui Ling panicked and shouted, Xiaohua, quickly come and save me. Xiaohua stood in the distance, blinking his eyes. A strange smile appeared on his face, but his figure didn't move at all. He only stood quietly in midair, without the slightest intention of stepping forward to help. Dui Ling was helpless. He fiercely urged his transcendence energy, and his originally fast, dodging figure sped up again. With a kacha sound, the green crab's claws cut at Dui Ling's waist. Dui Ling's body emitted a thunderous sound, and a resplendent brilliance appeared at his waist, blocking the green crab's claws. Xiaohua's eyes flashed with an expression as expected. He had long seen that Dui Ling was wearing a defensive transcendent artifact. Although this transcendent artifact couldn't compare to Qian Diheng's, it was more than enough to deal with a first-grade spirit beast like the green crab. However, just as the brilliance blocked the green crab, a green light suddenly flashed on the green crab's claws. With a Qi sound, that defensive brilliance was actually cut through by the green crab's claws. Ouch! Xiaohua was stunned. At the same time, a strange light flashed in his eyes. This green light is very familiar. Isn't this the Tai green light in my dream executioner? Although the light was faint, the sharpness of the innate gold Qi was unmistakable. He was actually able to break through the brilliance of the defensive magic treasure. Of course, the green crab had only managed to break through a tiny flaw in Dui Ling's defensive magic treasure. At this moment, Baisu Valley's fire-congealing pillar had already flown over. Several feet of flames raged as it pounced towards the green crab. No one knew where the sound came from, but a cluster of misty green light flew out of the green crab's stomach and covered the fiery condensing pillar, knocking down the several feet of fire. Only half a foot of fire was left on the fiery condensing pillar, like a bandage. Dying. At this time, Dui Ling had already recovered from his panic. He clapped his hands, and a palm-sized seal flew out from his storage bag. With the activation of Dui Ling's magic power, it flashed with tiny lightning bolts and smashed towards the green crab. Green light flew out of the green crab's stomach again, wanting to extinguish the lightning bolts. Da-la-la-la. A burst of lightning bolts lingered. The sharp Tai green light was indeed powerful. Half of the lightning bolts on Dui Ling's magic treasure, the Thunder Seal, were instantly destroyed by the green light. However, the green crab extinguished the lightning bolts, and the thunder seal's momentum did not change at all. It still smashed towards the back of the green crab. Seeing that the thunder seal was about to hit the green crab, Dui Ling's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. Quickly withdraw the thunder seal. At this time, Dui Chiming's voice rang in Dui Ling's ears. Why? Dui Ling was slightly dazed, but he knew that Dui Chiming's warning must be strange. He hurriedly activated his magic power and formed hand seals to withdraw the thunder seal. However, he was still half a step too late. The green light on the green crab's body spread out, and the crab claws slashed towards the sky, actually cutting towards the thunder seal. A faint sound rang out. The green light cut through the thunder seal, and a shallow imprint flashed on the thunder seal. The thunder seal's lightning bolts were extinguished a little more. Dui Ling was extremely distressed and shocked. He did not expect the green crab's crab claws to actually cut through the thunder seal. Boom! Baisugu's fire-congealing pillar flourished with flames again, and several fire dragons pounced towards the green crab. The green crab had no choice but to abandon Dui Ling. The green light under its abdomen reappeared, and it pounced towards the fire dragons. At this time, everyone had already flown back and stopped around Dui Ling and Baisugu. Like Xiaohua, they were shocked when they saw the green crab, but they immediately relaxed. They only released their divine senses to check the green crab's movements and instructed Baisugu and Dui Ling to join forces to fight the green crab. It was as if they were training the two of them. After a while, Jinhua also could not hold back. He slapped his hand, and the magic treasure, thunder confining bead, also flew into the air. The sparkling blue lightning bolts flickered and struck towards the back of the green crab. With a loud pung, the thunder confining bead avoided the crab claws and hit the back of the green crab. The green crab's shell still flashed with green light, and there was not the slightest mark left on it. However, faint streaks of lightning remained on the green crab's body, causing it to tremble for a while. Taking advantage of this, the green crab's crab claws turned and cut towards the thunder confining bead. Dui Ling pointed his finger, and the thunder seal also struck down, hitting the front half of the green crab in an instant. A burst of green light flashed, and there were actually some sparks splashing out. The green crab's body swayed twice in midair, and it almost lost its balance. Seeing that it could not gain any advantage, the green crab, who was already surrounded by everyone, finally put away its fearless in the face of danger calmness. Its body swayed slightly, and it was about to fall into the ice layer. "Don't let it escape," Zhen Mingwei shouted. "This is the advantage of my Imperial Thunder Sect's first team. Kill this bastard to get the first prize." Okay. Hearing this, Cui Hongshen was also very interested. He clapped his hands, and two thunder beads, one big and one small, flew out. Like meteors catching up with the moon, they fell below the green crab and suddenly rushed towards the green crab's abdomen. With a burst of ear-piercing sound, the two thunder beads actually made an ear-piercing sound. Pooh! The green crab's abdomen spat out a large cluster of Tai green light, wanting to extinguish the two thunder beads. But the moment the Tai green light fell, the two thunder beads slightly collided. With a ka sound, a bolt of lightning was born from the thunder beads' contact, piercing the green light like a sharp sword, and the two thunder beads took advantage of the collision to fly in opposite directions. This bastard's technique of controlling a celestial artifact is not bad. Only Xiaohua was still standing in the distance, calmly watching with his Buddhist awareness. Seeing Cui Hongshen's method, he could not help but sneer. Master and Master's wife only gave me a spirit crow fire net, but this bastard gave me two thunder beads at once. Master is a little biased. While Xiaohua was surprised, Cui Hongshen was also surprised. The lightning was like a sword piercing the green light. According to his thinking, it should have pierced through the green light and even pierced the green crab's abdomen. Who would have thought that the lightning would actually flicker in the green light and be annihilated. How could he not be surprised? Hee hee, this green crab is a little strange. Zhen Minghui also took out his magic tool at this time. It was not much different from Dui Ling's thunder seal, a square brick. However, in Zhen Minghui's hands, the lightning brick seemed to possess a different kind of power. As Zhen Minghui spoke, the lightning brick suddenly grew in size. It was several feet in size and smashed down like a giant boulder. The poor green crab had just dealt with Cui Hongshan's small ball, and now it had to face Zhen Minghui's brick. Its crab claws streaked through the air, leaving a trace of mark. Before the green crab could be happy, the brick smashed down with a boom, hitting its back. Although the green light of the green crab flashed and blocked the thunder brick, it still fell several feet. The green light protecting the green crab was also somewhat dim. Only a thin layer of protection was left. The poor green crab was only a first-rank spirit beast. How could it withstand the torment of so many Foundation establishment cultivators? The corner of Cui Hongshan's mouth curved into a slight smile. He glanced at Dui Qimeng and scolded softly. His hand seals changed slightly, and the two thunder beads that had just separated drew two beautiful arcs onto the green crab's abdomen and converged close to the green crab. With a kacha sound, another thunderlight was born. This thunderlight was 10% larger than the previous one, and it was incomparably fast. Before the green light of the green crab could be released, the thunderlight had already hit the green light, protecting the green crab. Rip, like piercing through a layer of silk, the thunderlight tore the green light apart and hit the green crab's abdomen. The green crab's abdomen should be its weak point. The green crab's two crab claws violently waved, and an inch-sized black hole appeared with green smoke. The green crab was injured, and its sinking speed was even faster. Still want to escape? Zhen Minghui was somewhat regretful. He secretly blamed himself for not thinking of attacking the green crab's abdomen earlier. He pointed his finger, and the thunder brick also flew down and hit the green crab. However, just as the thunder brick flew down, the green crab had already landed on the layer of ice. It was about to sink into the big hole that it had just charged out of. Quick, Chiu Su, who had been motionless all this time, pointed his finger. The Dharma artifact that he had set up above the ice hole long ago flew up. It was a thunder net. Seeing the flickering thunder net completely wrap around the green crab, everyone was a little embarrassed. It took a few Foundation establishment and Qi refinement cultivators to capture the green crab with so much effort. Just as Chiu Su was about to form a seal to capture the green crab, two rays of green light flashed out from the green crab's crab claws and cut a part of the thunder net at the same time. The green light was so sharp that it flashed and cut a big hole in the thunder net. The green crab was about to fall into the ice hole very easily. Ouch, Chiu Su exclaimed. He knew that he had underestimated the green light. Fortunately, Zhen Minghui's thunder brick flew over in time and smashed at the spot where Cui Hongshan's thunder pearl had hit. With a pu sound, the thunder brick actually sank into it. The green crab's crab claws trembled a few times, and the green light around its body gradually disappeared. Congratulations, Senior Brother Minghui, for killing it with one strike. Cui Hongshan's thunder pearl flew over at the same time. Seeing that the green crab had been killed by Zhen Minghui, he waved his hand, and the thunder pearl flew back to him. Chapter 2250. No, it's all thanks to Captain Cui. If Captain hadn't found this monster's weakness, I'm afraid it would have escaped. Zhen Minghui put away the thunder brick and waved his hand. The huge green crab corpse flew into the air and floated in front of everyone. He said, "This green crab's green light is very strange. It's really powerful." Clap, 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 clap. Xiao Hua's slightly sarcastic praise sounded. Really powerful. This Xiao admires you very much. A first-grade spirit beast with the strength of Qi refinement. So many people actually took action. Really powerful. Shut up. Cui Hongshan scolded angrily. Didn't you see that Dui Ling was in danger?
and even asked you for help? You didn't do anything? Are you still a man? Whether I'm a man or not, you don't need to know. Xiao Hua sneered. Isn't a chi refinement spirit beast a good opportunity for her to practice? If you all killed it, she would be helpless the next time she sees a spirit beast. What good would it do her? Besides, you clearly knew that this green crab's green light was strange. So why did you kill it? If you found where the green crab came from, wouldn't you be able to get more green light? This. Cui Hongshan was stunned by Xiao Hua's words. Xiao Hua's words were extremely reasonable. Can you guarantee that DUI Ling won't be injured? Zhen Minghui also chimed in. Besides, a green crab is so difficult to deal with. There must be a lot under the ice, right? What should we do? Even if you want to follow the green crab to find the green light, do you think you can go deep into the ice river? Everything is just wishful thinking. It's just empty talk. Hee, isn't it? Cui Hongshan also laughed. He couldn't help but think of his master's helpless evaluation of Xiao Hua's frivolity. Forget it, Xiao Hua. Your thoughts are excellent, but our cultivation is limited. If we can prevent DUI Ling from getting injured, we will try our best not to take risks. If there are such difficulties in the future, don't hesitate. Cui Hongshan waved his hand and looked at the green crab. What is this green light? If we can get it, it will be of great use. This subordinate has never seen or heard of such a sharp green light before. It can actually cut through magical artifacts, and even lightning. It's even more impossible for him to know how to draw it. Zhen Minghui's face was also filled with embarrassment as he looked at Qiu Su. After all, Qiu Su was a disciple of the technique imparting pavilion, so he might have some knowledge. Senior brothers, I don't know either. Qiu Su smiled bitterly. Cui Hongshan's gaze swept across DUI Qiming and the rest. Everyone shook their heads. Forget it, Senior Brother Minghui. Keep this thing for the time being. We'll talk about it when we return to Sky Patrol City and meet our teacher. Cui Hongshan waved his hand and instructed. I think Captain Cui should keep it. Zhen Minghui hesitated for a moment before waving his hand. The green crab flew towards Cui Hongshan. The green crab's green light is powerful. The crab's shell and claws are also abnormally hard. They are all good materials for refining tools. Cui Hongshan glanced at Zhenhua and said with a smile, Yes, Captain Cui is right. After seeing Cui Hongshan's magic tool, Zhenhua also knew that Cui Hongshan was indeed not weak. He felt admiration in his heart and quickly replied, The crab shell is extremely hard and the crab claws are extremely sharp. In the 100 Refinements Hall, it is a rare material for refining. We'll definitely encounter a lot of such rare materials in the future. There's no need to divide it now. When we return to Sky Patrol City, I'll share it with everyone. Cui Hongshan waved his hand and said, Senior Brother Minghui, keep it for the time being. We'll remember this. Even if you want to take it, you can't. All right. Zhen Minghui knew that Cui Hongshan wanted to avoid arousing suspicion. After thinking for a while, he reluctantly nodded. With a wave of his hand, he kept it in his storage bag. All right, let's take a rest. Cui Hongshan used his divine thought to check for a moment. After confirming that there was no danger, he ordered. Before DUI Ling and the rest could fly up, Xiao Hua suddenly said, Fellow cultivator Cui, I have something to do. Please wait here for a moment. I'll be back soon. After saying that, he turned around and flew back without waiting for Cui Hongshan's reply. Cui Hongshan was slightly angry. He could not figure out what Xiao Hua wanted to do. If he wanted to escape, why did he do it earlier? Now, he wanted to escape in front of everyone, but if he didn't escape, what couldn't he say clearly? Captain Cui, your junior brother's temper isn't small. Zhen Minghui seemed to be distressed. He doesn't respect the captain at all. There's no way. Cui Hongshan sighed again. He's just a junior brother who just entered Foundation establishment. I also received master's instructions. There's nothing I can do. And I also have such a junior brother. Since young, he has been doted on by his master. He's rather arrogant, but what happened in the end? He's still in the 11th layer of chi refining. This time, he was almost sent out. Zhen Minghui laughed. This junior brother of yours is not bad.
He's already entered Foundation establishment. It seems that he also has some knowledge. And Chui Hongshan looked in the direction Xiao Hua disappeared. Of course, I will do what I can. If it's beyond the scope of my abilities, I can't do it. Everything will be up to the will of the heavens. Immediately, everyone flew to a low-lying area and took medicinal pills to rest. Dui Ling looked in the direction Xiao Hua disappeared in, as if he had lost something. After waiting for nearly the time it took to eat a meal, Xiao Hua finally came back. "What did you go to do?" Chui Hongshan asked unhappily. "You're a member of my team. Even if you're my junior brother, you must explain the reason when you go out. Otherwise, I won't be able to convince everyone." "I know," Xiao Hua replied unhappily, but he didn't explain what he had gone to do. "Xiao Hua, come over here." Seeing that Chui Hongshan was about to scold him again, Chiming hurriedly called out. And Xiao Hua responded and flew to Dui Chiming and Dui Ling's side. Chui Hongshan looked at the others, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. Dui Chiming looked at the lazy Xiao Hua and whispered, "Xiao Hua, senior sister will say something to you. No matter what, Chui Hongshan is already the leader of our team. As a senior brother, you can't undermine him. Even if you have some complaints in your heart, you can't show it on your face. After all, he has to make plans for the 10 of us. You have to endure it for the sake of our lives and your own." Xiao Hua mumbled to himself. Also, Chui Hongshan was right. Even if you want to train Dui Ling, you have to ensure his safety first. How dangerous was it just now? If we didn't intervene, Dui Ling's life would have been long gone, let alone training. Tisk, is it worth it? Xiao Hua wasn't convinced. How could he let the green crab hurt Dui Ling? However, he didn't say anything and continued to mumble. "That's right, Xiao Hua. No matter what, I was the one who recruited you to the Imperial Thunder Sect. How could you be so ruthless?" Dui Ling whispered with a bitter face. All right. Xiao Hua clapped his hands and took out a jade slip. "This Xiao's cultivation is shallow. Even if I intervened, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to save you. Therefore, I had no choice but to not intervene. Since you were so unhappy, this jade slip is this Zhao's apology." "Jade slip? What for?" Dui Ling was very puzzled, but he still took it and used his weak divine perception to take a look. Tai green light? Collecting technique? Immediately, Dui Ling withdrew his divine perception and handed the jade slip to Xiao Hua. He smiled and said, "It's good that you know you were wrong. I only want your apology. You should keep this thing yourself." Dui Ling. Zhenhua was shocked and said anxiously, "Quickly let me see the jade slip." Why should I give it to you?" Dui Ling was unhappy and looked at Xiao Hua. "Why are you looking at me? It's all yours. This Xiao has never given anything to anyone, and I will never take back what I have given," Xiao Hua said indifferently. "You have never given anything to anyone? Have you never given anything to Fairy Hong Xia?" Dui Ling asked with a smile. "Why should I tell you?" Xiao Hua flew to the side and sat down cross-legged. He wiped his hand and put the green spirit pill into his mouth, no longer paying attention to them. Tai green light? At this moment, Zhen Minghui also woke up and followed Zhenhua to Dui Ling's side. However, Chui Hongshan still didn't understand. Seeing Chui Hongshan's confusion, Dui Chiming hurriedly transmitted a message, seemingly telling Chui Hongshan about the Tai green light. When Chui Hongshan heard this, he looked at Xiao Hua with even more astonishment. Dui Ling naturally passed the jade slip to Zhenhua. Zhenhua looked at it for a moment before passing it to Zhen Minghui. When Zhen Minghui finished looking at it, his face was filled with surprise. Just like Zhenhua, he looked up at Chui Hongshan and said, "Captain Chui, we are really lucky. If I'm not wrong, the green light inside the green crab is the Tai green light. It is a type of innate gold qi. When refining qi, you only need to use a little bit of it, and your artifact will immediately become incomparably sharp. This is especially true for artifacts like flying swords. Many of the elders in my Imperial Thunder Sect are searching everywhere for this item. Senior apprentice Brother Minghui, you can try extracting this Tai green light. Chui Hongshan's heart was filled with mixed feelings. However, he was immediately overjoyed. They had just set out and hadn't even encountered a sword cultivator, yet they had such a harvest. This was truly beyond his expectations. Zhen Minghui glanced at Xiao Hua, who was ignoring them in the distance, and said with a smile, "Captain Chui, although the green crab is ours, we have eyes but failed to see. If it weren't for your junior apprentice brother's jade slip, this Tai green light would only benefit others. Since that is the case, please extract it, Captain Chui. It is better to leave such a rare item with the captain." Chui Hongshan glanced at everyone, thought for a moment, and nodded. "Fine, I will reluctantly accept this difficult task." With that, Chui Hongshan took the jade slip from Zhen Minghui's hand. He immersed his divine thought in it for a long time, flew to the place where he had previously rested, sat down, and closed his eyes to meditate. After a while, Chui Hongshan opened his eyes and looked at Zhen Minghui. Zhen Minghui immediately woke up. He clapped his hands, and the huge green crab fell in front of Chui Hongshan. Chui Hongshan made a gesture and hit the green crab. The green light that had been annihilated before gradually reappeared with the incantation, and it became more and more intense. After a while, Chui Hongshan's hand tightened. As his hand grasped, a green brilliance smaller than a mung bean condensed together and gradually rose from the green crab's corpse. It was a little bit of Tai green light. Chapter 2251. That's great. Everyone's face lit up with joy. They knew that this was the Tai green light. This was a good thing. Even if everyone got some, it would still be good. Not to mention that this thing was free. Then, Chui Hongshan put the Tai green light into the jade box, stuck a talisman on it, and put it away in his storage bag. All right, everyone, we've rested enough. Now, it's time to get down to business. Chui Hongshan clapped his hands and smiled. There must be more good things waiting for us ahead. Good. Everyone was happy and spread out, ready to activate their magic power. However, Dui Ling's eyes were sharp, and he said anxiously, "Captain Chui, wait a moment." Xiao Hua seems to have not finished adjusting his breath. Chui Hongshan, who was grinning from ear to ear, turned his head to look. Sure enough, Xiao Hua still looked calm and did not hear Chui Hongshan's order. He, fellow Taoist Xiao, is really diligent. He even wants to use this little bit of time. If his cultivation does not improve, it would be unreasonable. Ming Mao also helped him out. Why don't we rest for a while? All right. Chui Hongshan nodded. Well, however, without waiting for him to finish, Xiao Hua jumped up and said indifferently, "Let's go. I've finished adjusting my breath." Beside them, Dui Qiming was laughing in her heart. She almost laughed out loud. As an outsider, she could see clearly that Xiao Hua was going against Chui Hongshan in every way to make Chui Hongshan angry. If Xiao Hua did not take out the jade slip just now, Dui Qiming would not be able to guess Xiao Hua's thoughts. Now, she was not worried about her lover. If Xiao Hua had any bad intentions, there was no need for him to take out the jade slip to extract the Tai green light, even if it was for Dui Ling. Chui Hongshan was a little angry and said coldly, "Don't think that you'll be rewarded for taking out the jade slip. Once I get it to Century City, the elders of my Imperial Thunder sect will definitely know. You're just letting us wait in advance." Without waiting for Chui Hongshan to finish, Xiao Hua said indifferently, "I didn't give you any jade slip. Are you still leaving or not?" Go. Zhen Minghui hurriedly interrupted. "We'll leave now." As he spoke, he pulled Chui Hongshan's Taoist robe and took the lead to fly into the air. "Let's go, Xiao Hua. You still have to cover the rear with this concubine." Ming Mao and Dui Ling waited for the others to fly away before covering their mouths and laughing as they held hands and flew up. Xiao Hua curled his lips, feeling extremely displeased in his heart. What use does the extreme unity green light have? These 9 people definitely don't know as much as he does, and he definitely wants to obtain the extreme unity green light more than the other 9 people. Naturally, what he wants is not just this little bit of extreme unity green light. Unfortunately, He had already used Earth Escape to the bottom of the ice river and searched everywhere, but there were no clues at all. Apart from the cold, there was no other spirit beast in sight. Who knew where this green crab came from? If Green Crab could return alive, he would be able to bring Xiaohua to find even more green crab. Forget it. Xiaohua flew at the back, still as slow as before. He only pondered for a moment before tossing it aside. Of the 9 sword pellets, only the first one had been repaired. The other 8 still couldn't work. Presumably, the injuries suffered by 9 Stars Transit that day weren't light. If he had the extreme Unity green light, he might be able to repair these sword pellets as soon as possible. If he didn't, Xiaohua wasn't in too much of a hurry. He could just slowly repair them. Thus, Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and flew leisurely, but his mind was focused on the cultivation method. After flying for another half a day, a mountain ridge appeared in front of them. Cui Hongshan stopped and looked at the jade slip again. He nodded and said, "This is Chicken Crime Mountain. Wait for me to send a summoning talisman." As he spoke, he clapped his hands, and a lightning summoning talisman was sent out. A moment later, several people came out from the mountain ridge. The one in the lead was an early-stage Foundation establishment old man dressed in hemp clothes. Behind him were several aura refining disciples. From afar, the old man cupped his hands and said, "Chicken Cry Mountains lonely greets fellow Taoist Chui and fellow Taoists from the Imperial Thunder Sect. I don't dare. I'm Cui Hongshan. Greetings, fellow Taoist lonely." Cui Hongshan didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly returned the greeting. He then pointed at Zhun Minghui and said, "This is my Imperial Thunder Sect Zhun Minghui, my assistant." "Greetings, fellow Taoist Zhun." Lonely turned around and bowed. He said with a smile, "From fellow Taoist Zhun's name, you must be a descendant of the Imperial Thunder Sect's Thunder Palace. You're truly respectable." "I don't dare." Zhun Minghui returned the greeting and said with a smile, "I may have a higher starting point, but compared to fellow Taoist land's diligence, I'm still ashamed of my inferiority." This is fate," Lonely said with a smile. "Everyone's path is different. If fellow Taoist Zhun was born in my Chicken Cry Mountain, perhaps your accomplishments would be even greater than mine." "Not at all." Zhun Minghui's expression didn't change, but he was indeed bewildered in his heart. They had already met, yet they were still exchanging boring pleasantries. What was the matter? Why didn't they invite him in a Chicken Cry Mountain first? Cui Hongshan was also puzzled. He clapped his hands and took out the Imperial Thunder Sect's first team token, saying, "I was sent by the Imperial Thunder Sect's master. I received a message from Chicken Cry Mountain and came to rescue them. This is my Imperial Thunder Sect's token, which is recognized by the 3 kingdoms of cultivation. Fellow Taoist Lon, please check it." There's no need." Lonely glanced at it and said with a smile, "The Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples are all dignified people. How can they be compared to the filthy sword cultivators? I can tell at a glance that they're different. I should have invited all of you into the valley for a chat, but now that we're in the midst of a great battle, the crisis of my Chicken Cry Mountain has been resolved. I believe there will be more opportunities for you to show your talents in Sky Patrol City. Therefore, I'd like to ask fellow Taoist Chui to bring the Imperial Thunder Sect's fellow Taoists back to Sky Patrol City quickly." Cui Hongshan was stunned. He looked around and asked curiously, "Did Chicken Cry Mountain encounter sword cultivators? What crisis was it? How did it get resolved so quickly?" "This," Lonely hesitated and said with a smile, "It's nothing. Previously, a small group of sword cultivators surrounded my Chicken Cry Mountain and seemed to want to destroy my Chicken Cry Mountain. However, under Valley Master's lead, we chased the sword cultivators away. After that, no more sword cultivators came to harass us, so I don't think they'll come again. The message that Chicken Cry Mountain sent to my Imperial Thunder Sect was that they needed disciples with fast flying speed to come over. Was there anything else?" Cui Hongshan was a little disappointed. They had come so excitedly, but left just like that. It was very empty. Lonely blinked and turned to look at the few disciples behind him. It seemed like he did not know what to say. Fellow Taoist Lan, the 7 skills sect disciples have already arrived, right? Zhen Minghui said with a smile. Don't tell me they helped us out? Hee, so fellow Taoists have already met the 7 skills sect disciples. Lan Li said with a smile. If that's the case, I won't hide anything. A few days ago, the 7 skills sect disciples arrived and killed the sword cultivators. The crisis of Chicken Crime Mountain has already been resolved. I'm afraid that I'll embarrass the Imperial Thunder sect, so I'm too embarrassed to say it. It's fine, Chui Hongshin waved his hand and said with a smile, as long as Chicken Crime Mountain is fine, isn't that better than anything else? Fellow Taoist Lan, can you give me a copy of Chicken Crime Mountain's token so that I can use it as proof to explain myself to my sect? Lan Li was a little troubled. He shook his head and said, it's not that I don't want to give it to you. Now that the sword cultivators are at war with my Tao sect, this token is very important. It's in the hands of the Valley Master, and he's currently having a secret meeting with the 7 skills sect disciples. I'm afraid he can't give it to fellow Taoist Chui. Fine, Chui Hongshan was in a dilemma. Should I leave or not? Leave, without the token. Who knows if you've come to Chicken Crime Mountain or not? If I don't leave, it's the 7 skills sect who helped me out. It has nothing to do with me. Later, when I meet the Valley Master of Chicken Crime Mountain, I'll definitely meet the 7 skills sect disciples, and they'll definitely mock and ridicule me. Besides, this so-called captain, it's really troublesome. Chui Hongshan was almost dispirited. After pondering for a moment, Chui Hongshan smiled and said, since that's the case, I'll wait. After all, I'm under my master's orders. Without proof, it'll be hard for me to explain myself. All right then, Lan Li thought for a moment, then raised his hand and gestured, fellow Taoist Chui, please follow me. With that, Lan Li flew to the foot of the mountain first. Chui Hongshan and the others flew behind him, and the Chicken Crime Mountain's disciples accompanied them. Chicken Crime Mountain was a mountain ridge, and it was several hundred feet higher than the surrounding snowy plains. The mountains were undulating, and from high up in the sky, it looked like a crowing rooster. That was probably how Chicken Crime Mountain got its name. Chui Hongshan followed Lan Li into the mountain ridge, and after passing through a faint fog restriction, they arrived at the back of the rooster. It was a valley that was several miles wide, and the foundation of the Chicken Crime Mountain's disciples was in this valley. On the stone walls of the valley, there was a rather majestic building. Chui Hongshan followed Lan Li into a hall with a sign that read Guest Hall. Fellow Taoists, please take a seat and enjoy some spirit fruits and spirit tea. I'll go invite the Valley Master over. Lan Li said with a smile. Yes, thank you for your trouble, fellow Taoist Lan. Chui Hongshan cupped his hands and thanked him. Then, he sat on a chair and gave Zhen Minghui a look. Zhen Minghui understood and walked to Lan Li's side, whispering, fellow Taoist Lan, we came here in a hurry, and our teacher didn't have time to inform us. I'll take the liberty to ask for the name of your Valley Master, so as to avoid being rude later. It's nothing. Lan Li shook his head slightly and smiled. My Chicken Crime Mountain is far to the north of the country of Shi, and we're a small cultivation family. How could we attract the attention of the Imperial Thunder sect? For them to send their disciples over, my Chicken Crime Mountain is already very grateful. I'll let fellow Taoist Zhen know that the Valley Master of my Chicken Crime Mountain is Valley Master Zhan Xinjian. Thank you, fellow Taoist Lan. Zhen Minghui smiled apologetically. For Chicken Crime Mountain to be coveted by sword cultivators, it must be famous. My teacher of the Imperial Thunder sect must also know about it. It's just that we, the younger generation disciples, have little experience and are somewhat ignorant. Fellow Taoist Zhen, please take a seat. Lan Li smiled and called for the disciples to serve the spirit fruits and spirit tea. Then he went straight ahead. It's really embarrassing. Xiao Hua saw Chui Hongshan's slightly red face and felt very refreshed in his heart. Even the name of the Chicken Crime Mountain's clan master came rashly. How could it not be embarrassing? This is great. It's embarrassing in front of everyone. Chapter 2252. Chui Hongshun was also helpless. He thought that there was a detailed explanation in the token, so he didn't ask in detail on the Thunderboat. When he got out of the Thunderboat, he realized that something was wrong. Perhaps the masters of the Imperial Thunder Sect really didn't put Chicken Crow Mountain in their eyes, but Chui Hongshun couldn't. Now that he was here, instead of embarrassing himself in front of the Valley Master, he might as well ask clearly now. Chui Hongshun and the others thought it would be quick, but they actually waited for more than half a day. They didn't see Lan Li or the so-called John Xin. Damn it, it can't be a trap, right? Xiaohua secretly released his Buddhist sense. All the disciples of Chicken Crow Mountain were normal and did what they were supposed to do. However, there were many restrictions that his Buddhist sense couldn't penetrate. Xiaohua also couldn't see where Lan Li or the Seven Skills sect disciples were. It's a little strange. Xiaohua withdrew his Buddhist sense and knew that it wasn't a trap. He thought to himself in surprise, aren't there too many restrictions in this Chicken Crow Mountain? It's different from ordinary cultivation aristocratic families. Chui Hongshun, who had always been calm, was also a little anxious. Just as he was about to find a disciple to rush them, he heard light and noisy footsteps coming from outside the hall. When Chui Hongshun and the others looked up, they saw Seven Skills Sect's Han Bing, accompanied by a skinny middle-stage Foundation establishment old man, quickly entering the guest hall. Needless to say, this tall and skinny middle-stage Foundation establishment old man must be the Valley Master of Chicken Crow Mountain, John Xin. Chui Hongshun didn't want to get up because if he did, he would be greeting Han Bing, which would damage the reputation of the Imperial Thunder Sect. However, he was a guest of Chicken Crow Mountain. When the host came, how could he not get up? Moreover, Chui Hongshun was born in a cultivation aristocratic family and had seen the arrogance of the disciples of cultivation sects in his own home. He had long decided not to be such a bad person. Therefore, after hesitating for a moment, Chui Hongshun still stood up. Seeing Chui Hongshun stand up, Zhen Minghui and the others also immediately stood up. On the other hand, Xiaohua glanced coldly and still sat there without moving. Seeing Chui Hongshun and the others stand up, Han Bing smiled slightly, but when she glanced at Xiaohua, her eyes flashed fiercely. Xiaohua pursed his lips and also glared at her. He didn't seem to be afraid, which made Han Bing surprised. Oh, so it's a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect. This old man should go out and greet you personally. John Xin naturally didn't want to offend the Imperial Thunder Sect, so he forced a smile and hurriedly said, however, because fellow Taoist Han from the Seven Skills sect arrived first, this old man had some matters to discuss with fellow Taoist Han in private. That's why I was rude. Please don't blame me, fellow Taoist Chui. As he spoke, Zhan Xin took a few steps forward and bowed. Zhan Xin's bow instantly gave face to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Chui Hongshun was also overjoyed and hurriedly went forward to return the bow. He smiled and said, I dare not trouble Valley Master Zhan. I came under my master's orders. I'm really nagging. Not at all. I'm more than happy that a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect has come to help my Chicken Crow Mountain defend against the enemy. Zhan Xin said anxiously, I'm truly grateful. Chui Hongshun shook his head. It's a pity that we came too late and couldn't help Chicken Crow Mountain at all. This old man is extremely grateful that a disciple of the Imperial Thunder Sect has such intentions. Come, take a seat and have some of my Chicken Crow Mountain spirit tea. Zhan Xin smiled and gestured for Chui Hongshun and the others to sit. At this moment, Han Bing also walked in front of Chui Hongshun. She glanced at him with a smile and said, Captain Chui, why did you still come? I already told you that we don't need you here. Chui Hongshun originally wanted to sit down, but now he could only remain standing. He looked at Han Bing and asked, if a disciple of the Seven Skills sect is here, why can't a disciple of my Imperial Thunder sect come? Han Bing raised her eyebrows and sized up Chui Hongshun. She asked curiously, why must a disciple of my Seven Skills sect be here, but a disciple of your Imperial Thunder sect must come? Chui Hongshan was displeased. Han Bing was clearly provoking him. However, seeing that she was a mid-foundation establishment cultivator, he took a deep breath and replied, "A disciple of my Imperial Thunder sect received a message from Chicken Crow Mountain. Of course, he had to come. As for whether a disciple of your Seven Skills sect comes or not, it has nothing to do with my Imperial Thunder sect." "Ha ha!" Han Bing laughed and asked, "Don't you know what message Chicken Crow Mountain sent to your Imperial Thunder sect?" Chui Hongshan was slightly taken aback. He shook his head and said, "I don't know. That's my master's business." Hee, fellow Han. Jean Xin felt that something was amiss. He immediately smiled apologetically and said, "Both the Seven Skills sect and Imperial Thunder sect came from my Chicken Crow Mountain. They're all disciples of my Dao sect. Why do you have to get to the bottom of it?" "Valley Master Jean." Han Bing's expression changed slightly. She turned around and said, "I came under my master's orders. I never thought that a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect would come. This matter. This is all a mistake made by the disciple who went out to send the message." Jean Xin immediately smiled apologetically and said, "Didn't we already discuss the matter of my Chicken Crow Mountain with fellow Han?" Han Bing nodded. "I already know the reason. However, I still want to tell some self-righteous sects that if they don't have enough strength, they shouldn't force their way in. You were clearly sent to run errands to find my Seven Skills sect. Why did you send your own disciples?" With that, she waved her sleeves and sat down on the chair at the head of the meeting hall. The other early-stage Foundation establishment disciples and a 12th-stage Qi refinement disciple from the Seven Skills sect also sat on the main seats. Seeing this, Chui Hongshan frowned. He didn't sit down. He looked at Jean Xin and sneered, "Valley Master Jean, I didn't want to be a busybody. I only wanted to get the token from Chicken Crow Mountain and return to Sky Patrol City. However, since someone said that my Imperial Thunder sect can only run errands, I have to ask clearly, what's going on?" Jean Xin smiled bitterly. He glanced at the smug Han Bing and then at the ashen-faced Chui Hongshan. He was in a difficult position. This was a competition between the Seven Skills sect and the Imperial Thunder sect. Chicken Crow Mountain had no reason to get involved. After pondering for a moment, he smiled apologetically. "Fellow Daoist Chui, are you from Kuan Yu's Chui family, or Bainan's Chui family?" Fellow Daoist Chui Peng and fellow Daoist Chui Rixin are familiar with me. These two families have a very good relationship with my Chicken Crow Mountain. My Chicken Crow Mountain often trades with them for some artifacts. Hearing Jean Xin mention the head of Kuan Yu's Chui family, Chui Peng, Chui Hongshan's expression softened. However, he still sneered. "Fellow Daoist Jean, I'm now a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect. You're putting me in a difficult position by mentioning my family background." "Not at all." When Jean Xin heard that, he immediately reached out and took out a small storage bag. He handed it to Chui Hongshan and said with a smile, "Fellow Daoist Chui, this is the token of my Chicken Crow Mountain." Then he transmitted his voice. "There are some spirit stones inside and a magic artifact of my Chicken Crow Mountain. Please accept it as a token of my respect. Fellow Taoists from the Imperial Thunder sect, thank you for coming here." Chui Hongshan was a little hesitant. Beside him, Zhen Mingwei smiled and said, "Since Valley Master Jean has given us the token, Captain Chui, we should return to Sky Patrol City immediately. There are still sword cultivators waiting for us to kill." All right." Chui Hongshan saw Zhan Minghui's hint and took the storage bag. He nodded and said, "In that case, I'll take my leave. Disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect, if possible, please stay for a few more days. It won't be too late to rest here for a while before leaving." Jean Xin was happy and politely urged them to stay. "Ha ha ha, you're leaving already?" Han Bing laughed and said, "Looks like we can only rely on my Seven Skills sect to kill the sword cultivators in Chicken Crow Mountain. Only the sword cultivators in Sky Patrol City can rely on the Imperial Thunder sect. Even if the Imperial Thunder sect disciples stay in Chicken Crow Mountain, they can only hide behind my Seven Skills sect. After all, their enemy is in Sky Patrol City." The Imperial Thunder sect disciples were displeased. At this moment, a figure flew in from the outside. Before the figure could be seen, a panicked voice rang out. Valley Master, something bad has happened. My Chicken Crow Mountain is being attacked by thousands of sword cultivators. Jean Xin was shocked. He looked at the descending Qi refinement disciple and said in shock, Thousands of sword cultivators? Where are their cultivation bases? All right, Valley Master, most of them are at the 9th grade of sword nurturing realm. A small number of them are at the sword drawing realm. The panicked disciple said anxiously. Hiss! Jean Xin sucked in a breath of cold air. Only a few hundred sword cultivators had attacked Rooster Crow Mountain earlier, and Rooster Crow Mountain alone was already unable to fend them off. Now, there were over 1,000 sword cultivators. Even if the disciples of Seven Skills Sect and Imperial Thunder Sect were added in, they were still no match for them. Without waiting for Jean Xin to speak, a loud laugh came from behind Cui Hongshan. Jean Xin looked over curiously. It was Xiao Hua who was laughing. Why are you laughing, fellow Taoist? Jean Xin asked with a gloomy face. I'm just lamenting. Xiao Hua's face was lonely. He pointed at Han Bing and said, Seven Skills Sect's fellow Taoist Han's enemy is here. Where's my Imperial Thunder Sect's enemy? Century City is really too far away. My Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples are really lonely. Han Bing's face was naturally filled with panic. Hearing Xiao Hua's ridicule, she became even angrier. She said coldly, What is this fellow Taoist's name? Isn't your Imperial Thunder Sect preparing to fight? I am Imperial Thunder Sect's Xiao Hua. What? Does fellow Taoist Han still want to remember? However, even if you want to find trouble with this Xiao, you have to wait until you fight with your enemy. Oh, this Xiao forgot. Fellow Taoist, you have to wait until after the battle. Xiao Hua pretended to come to his senses and slapped his forehead. Xiao Hua, Cui Hongshan said coldly. Shut up. Yes, this Xiao will shut up now. Xiao Hua said with a smile. However, he still said to Han Bing, As for whether my Imperial Thunder Sect will fight or not, this Xiao thinks that it will depend on the result of Seven Skills Sect's battle. Fellow Taoist Han just said that the words spoken are like spilled water. It can't be taken back. Seeing Han Bing trembling with anger, Cui Hongshan was overjoyed. He never thought that this junior brother of his, who he always disliked, was so pleasing to the eye today. However, he still scolded, Xiao Hua, how can you be so impudent? He is a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation establishment. How can he go back on his words? Jean Xin smiled bitterly. However, he didn't want to be entangled with these two sections. He waved his hand and said, Let's go take a look and discuss how to fight. That you're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.